What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto x Koyuki Harem? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. Teme, a blonde-haired boy clad in a demonic chakra cloak yelled as he slammed a ball of chakra against the electrical ball of a cursed seal-powered Chidori. The black-haired boy with human hands as wings attempted to kill the blonde-haired boy in order to gain a deadly power. Naruto Uzumaki was one special boy who harnessed a raw power of the most powerful demon of all, the Kyuubi no Yoko. After the explosion occurred, a smoke was covering the two known combatants. Naruto then emerged from the fight well off, but weakened. He then carried the unconscious Uchiha that was trying to escape the village of Konohagakure to Otogakure. Finally, you're coming back with me, Sasuke. Naruto mumbled as he sped through the forests where his team fought off the sound 4 or 5 who were bringing the Uchiha to Oto. Only then when Naruto finally reached Konoha did he receive a most unpleasant surprise in the form of an angry pink-haired girl. Sakura-chan, I can explain. Smack. Sakura slapped him so hard that he fell down onto the ground. Naruto baka, you were supposed to bring Sasuke-kun back to me unharmed. But he wasn't, Naruto began to explain. But the pink-haired Kunoichi along with the rest of the villagers were glaring at the blonde Jinchuriki. What is it? Demon brat, it's time for you to die, said one villager as he raised a knife along with many other villagers. For the preservation of our blue and pure world. The villagers then started attacking Naruto while a certain Hokage stepped in. Stop it right now, the blonde-haired Sannin yelled as she glared at the attacking villagers. But the council then stepped in led by a warhawk sporting a bandaged arm and a bandaged face. Naruto Uzumaki, for your crimes against our new order and humanity, we on behalf of the Konoha High Council, sentence you to exile under the threat of death if you step 1 foot inside this village. He said as the Anbu that served the warhawk ripped out his hite. Leave now. Naruto then left the village in a hurry, fearing for his life. The warhawk then smirked and gave out a brutal order. Kill him, he said. As you wish, Danzo-sama. The Nei Anbu replied as they soon pursued Naruto. The said exiled boy ran as fast as he can, but quickly grew tired. To make matters worse, he just bypassed more enemy traps that were meant for any invading army. Just as Naruto was about to fall unconscious, he was picked up by 3 somewhat familiar faces. One of them had 2 dots on her face while the other shinobi had somewhat weird hair. And the last one was the same Yuki nin that Naruto faced before. All of them had chakra armor that repelled ninjutsu and genjutsu. Ah, I remember you 3. You used to serve Dodo Teme. Naruto said, but the Kunoichi covered his mouth. Yes, we did serve Dodo, but our true leader is from another clan besides the Kazuhana clan. She said as another squad of Yuki shinobi came up to them. One of them had white hair and a Sharingan eye, while the other 2 had raven black hair and red eyes, but one of them was younger, and the Kunoichi of another squad had ice blue hair and ice gray eyes. The leader then issued out the orders. Fubuki, Nadare, Mizore, take the boy out of here. Shinosuke and Shin, battle stations. He said as the 2 lookalikes got into a battle stance. Amaya, be prepared to heal any injured squad members. Hi, Mamoru-sensei. The girl called Amaya replied as the 3-man squad from Yukigakure no Sato left with the unconscious Naruto in tow. Now, to wipe out these clowns. The leader called Mamoru said as he got out his katana. Let's dance. The Yuki squad that were combating the pursuing Nei Anbu from Konoha then were having little trouble as they took out every Nei Anbu squad. But there were more coming towards the Yuki ninjas. The Nei Anbu were desperate to see Naruto dead and on their leader's feet. Filthy patchworkers. One Nei Anbu yelled as he threw a kunai towards the younger version of the older Yuki ninja, but he replaced himself with a log. Kawurimi. Damn you bastards. The younger fellow yelled as he activated his Sharingan. You'll pay. Amaya and Shinosuke were surprised at their younger member as he got out a trench knife and started to kill more of those Nei Anbu. Cover me, Shinosuke, he said as one Nei Anbu Kunoichi gasped. Get out of there. That's the Asuka clan members we're facing. She yelled as Nei were retreating with disgust. Shinosuke and Shin Asuka, I'll never forget you bastards. She then fled from the battle scene as the surviving Nei were fleeing in fear. Shin turned off his Sharingan as his squad were retreating back to Yukigakure. The Junin squad that used to work for Dodo Kazuhana were nursing the unconscious Naruto back to life. Nadare sighed in relief at how this extraordinary genin would survive this ordeal. "Mizore, we have to take him to see Yukikage-sama," he said as Fubuki nodded. "Well, since Dodo was the Shodem Yukikage, we had to let an Asuka clan member to become the Naidame," she replied. "Dodo must be spinning in his grave right now that Koyuki has inherited the throne." Just then, Naruto began to wake up as Mizore looked at him. He had this pleasant feeling that the young boy would be tamed if given the right directions. "Hey, Gaki, remember me? I was the one that tried to punch you, but you blocked it easily," Midori explained as Naruto grew wide awake. "Yeah, and the chick that faced the Teme," Naruto replied. "Thank you for saving me, but weigh the change of heart? We serve the Yukikage, Gaki-kun," Nadare replied as Fubuki chuckled. "What's so funny? The Asuka clan are descended from the exiled Uchiha clan members that migrated to other nations," she replied as Naruto's face turned to a guilty feeling. "Why the long face?" "Because I was blamed for harming their precious Uchiha," Naruto replied in disgust. "Sakura-chan slapped me and the next thing I know, I was banished." "Let me guess, you played the scapegoat?" Midori asked as Naruto nodded. "Geez. Even the idiots in outer space wouldn't treat the boy like those murderous naturals." "Yeah," they yelled out, "for the preservation of our blue and pure world or something like that," the blonde kid said as Fubuki gasped. "What is it? Blue Cosmos? Even they have a branch in this place," she replied angrily. "Makes me wish Dodo was a member of the Supreme Council." "What are you talking about?" Naruto asked. Nadare then decided to give out the answer. "The outside world that we are isolated from is composed of 7 continents. Outside this planet, there is a set of satellites that people live in. They are called the plants. Most of us Yuki shinobi are actually coordinators since we migrated from the outside world. I don't know what genetic are you until we get back to our village," Nadare explained as they reached the coast of Hai no Kuni that was occupied with soldiers with different weapons. "Ah yes, old Dodo reformed the military by the invention of the gun. You saw how the samurai led by that guy Sandayu were outmatched by our volley gun. Under Dodo, many killing machines were invented." "Yeah, but I'm not sure if Koyuki Harem banned them or what," Naruto asked as the Yuki squad carrying him rented a boat and set sail for their home. The Kazuhana clan are also coordinators, but Dodo and Sosetsu Kazuhana are first-generation coordinators, Fubuki said as Midori tended the sails. Just then, the same Yuki squad that helped them also caught up with them in another boat. "Mamoru-senpai, can you at least introduce yourself and your squad?" "Sure, Fubuki-san," Mamoru said as Naruto looked at the other Yuki squad. "My name is Mamoru Uchiha Kagaya Hibiki, and I am the squad leader of Team 9 of Yukigakure no Sato." The 2 black-haired guys are the Asuka clan prodigies, Shinosuke and Shin Asuka. "And at last but not least, this kunoichi here is Amaya Musashi." "Nice to meet you," Naruto said as Shinosuke gasped. "What is it, Shinosuke?" "Naruto, when we get back to the village, we are so going to test your DNA," Shinosuke said as Shin looked at him. "What, do you think that maybe he's the one that was the result of that project?" Shin whispered as the boat sailed smoothly. "If he is a coordinator, then I feel sorry for him since he was raised by naturals." "Don't be silly, Shin-kun," Fubuki said as Amaya blinked. "I know that the Gaki here wouldn't let himself down. You must have a secret that gave us the reason why we rescued you. Koyuki Harem must have sensed that you would eventually be exiled," Amaya said as she touched Naruto's arm. "Let me guess, you contain a demon, right?" Naruto nodded as Shinosuke spoke up proudly. "I am the container of the Nanabi no Ukami while Amaya isn't a Jinchuriki." Shin on the other hand, received the cursed seal from that snake man. "Orochimaru Teme," Naruto growled as Shin chuckled. "I know that this seal gives me power, but it kinda kills me a little," Shin admitted. "After all, I'm just 9 years old and already a chunin." The boats had reached the coast of Yuki no Kuni when a familiar face appeared. Naruto's face grew bright when she started to come towards him. "Naruto-kun," Koyuki said as she hugged him. Amaya and Shinosuke nodded while Shin looked at her with curiosity. "Oh, why don't you guys rest up? But the ninjas that worked for my uncle would better have a good reason how you survived." "That's easy," Mamoru-senpai saved us. Midori replied with a grin while Fubuki looked at Mamoru with interest. And you did a great job saving us. Yeah, Fubuki-san, Mamoru replied. We need to get going if we want to go to our village. The Yuki shinobi squad then proceeded to walk a few more miles until they reached a walled village bristling with sentries and guard towers. Naruto noticed that the walls in Yukigakure were a lot bigger than the ones in Konoha, and he certainly didn't remember seeing 3 walls within the village. This is Yukigakure right here. Mamoru grinned as Nadare looked at him. We have been attracting a lot of migrants from all over the continent, and we have been successful in raising more than 80,000 shinobi here. Then, Dodo hired us to launch a putsch against Sosetsu-sama. Yeah, that I can remember. Midori replied as they were walking through the village's outpost. Gaki-kun, this section here is for the regular villagers and the factories here. It's called the outer ring of the village. The middle ring of the village is mainly reserved for merchants and middle-class people. The upper ring is where the Ninja Academy is located as well as the Yukikage Tower. As you noticed, all of the village is covered with snow and we use a lot of ice to construct our village. That's even better than Konoha. Naruto replied as Shinosuke and Shin yawned and Koyuki glanced at him. So who is the leader here if Dodo isn't living anymore? It's my father that is the Naidame Yukikage. We kinda recognized Dodo-sama as the Shodem since we haven't had the Kages rule our village before. We did have an Oyabun, but it wasn't worth it. Shinosuke said as Amaya caught up with them. The Shinobi district is located in the middle ring as well, but my clan lives in the Asuka mansion. They walked further along, passing another walled section of Yukigakure that was called the middle ring. Here, wealthy merchants were selling their merchandise that they acquired. Come and get your silk. Only 100 ryu. The merchant yelled as Naruto looked on. We're getting to the most exciting part of the village, and that's the inner ring. Shin said as Shinosuke sighed in relief. I can't wait to get to the baths. They reached the inner ring when a figure in a cage clothing came up to them. Like Shinosuke and Shin, this fellow had black hair and red eyes, but with a hint of gray in the bottom of his hair. He smiled greatly when he saw his son and nephew. So this is the sidetracking mission that you guys have done. He said as Koyuki bowed to him. Koyuki-sama, let me offer a sign of gratitude for letting my village function. I admit, it was hard under the previous Yukikage. I know what you mean. Besides, I would like to introduce the boy that changed my life. Koyuki said as she beckoned Naruto to come closer. This is Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto, the Yukikage here is Daisuke Asuka. Nice to meet you, Asuka-sama. Naruto said as he bowed to him. Koyuki-sama, can I borrow Naruto for a while? The man from the plants needs him for the testing of his DNA. Daisuke said as Koyuki nodded. Shinosuke, Shin, I'll catch up with you two later. Mamoru-san, please come with me, I need to hear your report. It shall be done, Yukikage-sama. Mamoru replied as he and Naruto followed the Yukikage into his office. The Council of Konoha was in chaos right now. The council members were deeply divided with ideologies, from the far left to the far right. The two elders, Kaharu Utatane and Homura Mitokado, were described as two elders with a very powerful influence. However, if anyone from the outside world had met them, they would have compared the two elders to that of Adolf Hitler's two most trusted aides, Goering and Himmler. Right now, there was a shouting match going on. Why haven't we killed that blasted demon yet? Yelled a civilian member. I don't know what really happened, but if the Yondaime were still here, he would be displeased. Inoichi Yamanaka replied, causing the same civilian to yell back. To hell with that traitor. Any Namikaze can go straight to hell for disrupting our true leader's plans. The same civilian replied. And to hell with that bitch as well, for agreeing with that traitor to create that patchworker, who turns out to be a demon and a new type. You insult the late Yondaime, and you will pay the price. Hiyashi Hyuga yelled as Tsunade banged her fists on the desk. Silence, she yelled as the council chamber grew silent. Now, let me ask a question. Why wasn't I informed of Naruto's exile? Like we would ever inform you, Tsunade-sama. We were doing what the true heroes of the New Order were doing. Killing that demon patchworker for the preservation of our blue and pure world. Replied an arrogant civilian, but it wasn't the same civilian earlier. Just then, the Konoha elders and Danzo came in. Danzo-sama, I know that the demon brat could cause us some problems if we spared its life, which is why we had to do it. Anyone who dared to oppose our policies regarding patchworkers will be executed on the spot. Danzo said, causing the civilian portion of the council to give the fascist salute. I am the Hokage, and all of you are to follow my orders. Tsunade said with a hint of malice in her voice. On the contrary, Tsunade Heim. Danzo replied snidely, you are being too soft. I don't know what will happen to the boy that tried to go to a snake for power. Hiyashi said as Homura replied back. We will need for Sasuke Uchiha to breed with a suitable number of women for the Uchiha clan to revive again. He replied as one civilian laughed. What's so funny? The Uchiha is just 13-year-old, for Kami's sake. We need to wait until he's 15 so he can fully procreate with another woman. The Haruno girl would be suitable, but the other girls wouldn't be that easy to accept. She said as Inoichi spoke up. I will not let my daughter to be used as a breeding tool for a clan that should have gone to hell. The Uchiha clan has been persecuted for a long time, and if we bring it back, we would just persecute them again. He replied back. So, Inoichi, you dared to oppose our new order, eh? Danzo sneered as two Anbu shinobi appeared beside him. You are a traitor just like your dead friend, and you shall die like a filthy coordinator lover that you truly are, for a natural. Tsunade then took this opportunity to throw out the Anbu that were planning to kill the Yamanaka head. Not today, she said as the council meeting quickly concluded. Naruto and Mamoru followed Daisuke into the depths of the Yukikage Tower where they will find out the origins of his heritage. When they arrived in the office, there was a person with a long black hair and a squinty-looking eyes. He smiled at Naruto, thinking about something. Maybe this is the child that can defeat Kira Yamato. He thought as he then turned his attention to the Yukikage. Greetings to you, Yukikage-sama. I am Gilbert Durandal from the plants, and I came here to test out my theory. I see, Daisuke said as Naruto shook Durandal's hands. So, let's get this show on, shall we? Of course. Durandal replied as he got out a cotton swabber and swabbed Naruto's mouth for the DNA. Naruto then sat down in the sofas in the office as the geneticist from outer space then went to the laptop that he brought. After that, he also ran a genetic run-through with possible matches and genetics. Finally, Durandal gasped as the results came in. What is it, Durandal-san? Daisuke asked. I believe that my theory is proved correct. Durandal explained as he showed the results. Naruto is the son of Minato Namikaze, the Yondaime Hokage, and the one that agreed to make his son a coordinator to Dr. Hibiki. As a result, Naruto is a coordinator and a new type. But it seems that his abilities are hampered by the negligence of the villagers and the shinobi population of his hometown. Those murderous naturals. They just wanted a whipping post, and when he gets sick and tired of being one, they try to kill him. Mamoru gritted his teeth. Because of them, Naruto is vulnerable. Yukikage-sama, let me train Naruto along with Fubuki, Midori and Nadare. Alright, but I want Naruto to be trained to the bone. Daisuke replied. Every minute of the day I want to see dramatic improvements. Alright, Yukikage-sama. Mamoru replied back as Durandal then went towards the door. I'll see you then, Durandal-san. Okay, Durandal said as he left the office. Daisuke then sighed as Mamoru proceeded to give his report. Yukikage-sama, our mission to do a reconnaissance trip in Hai no Kuni was a success with no casualties. However, we had to rescue Naruto while doing that. Mamoru reported as Daisuke was listening. So, who is Naruto's new sensei now? I don't know, since we haven't tested him yet. But I managed to receive a report from the Hokage regarding Naruto's Chunin exam schedule in the event that he was exiled. It appears that the report had to be sent in secret for fear of the council there. In the secret report, Naruto managed to defeat Neji Hyuga with the help from his tenant. His victory may have impressed the lords of the other nations, but the Konoha Council was hell-bent on disqualifying him. I need you to give him some more training before I reassess him, and then we'll promote him and commission him as a Yukigakure Chunin. Then, we'll have you, Nadare, Mizore and Fubuki train him to the bone. Daisuke explained as he led Mamoru and Naruto back to the office. Daisuke then turned to Naruto. Naruto-san, if you can undergo a few more training rounds with Mamoru-sensei here, I'll test you and promote you. Yes, Yukikage-sama, but have you found out about my Chunin exams results yet? Naruto asked. Well, your Hokage sent the results to me in the event that you were banished. But when it comes to missions, I'm afraid that you haven't improved on that. But with a little training, you can become a chunin. The Yukikage replied back. Naruto, Mamoru and Daisuke then exited from the Yukikage tower and into the open where the Yukikage bade Naruto a farewell. See you in the morning, Naruto-san. And report to Mamoru-san after I see you, Daisuke said as he went back to his office to resume his paperwork. When Shinosuke and Shin came home, they were about to get into their meal when a girl with brown hair came up to them. What is it, Mayu? Shin asked his sister. Shin Oni-chan, who is that blonde kind that came in the village just now? Mayu Asuka asked her brother. Shinosuke then decided to reply back. It was none other than Naruto Uzumaki, Mayu-chan. He replied as Mayu sighed in relief. Well, sushi's here at last. The cook then placed the dinner onto the table as the three Asukas dug in their meal. Itadaikamasu, they said as they started to eat their dinner. The cook decided to clean up the kitchen as he saw them eat the dinner that he made. He had a satisfaction that can only be matched by that of Ichiraku's chef. Well, they're enjoying the meal, that's good, the cook said to himself as he resumed cleaning. After the meal, Shin was the first one to get into the baths as he relaxed in the hot steaming tub. Shinosuke joined him later on with another surprise. Shin, what is it that Naruto needs to do when he's commissioned into the Yuki shinobi ranks? He asked. Dunno, but I think that Naruto could get a little training from Mamoru-sensei. Shin replied. Besides, we have a day off tomorrow so we can help him train. Yeah, but I wonder if what Oji-sama and Oba-sama said was true. Shinosuke asked curiously while the tub was relaxing them. What was true? Shin asked again. That you would be moving to the Orb Union. He replied back, causing the younger Asuka to look down. What is it, Shin? The reason why my parents were thinking about that is because of my cursed seal that Orochimaru gave me. Shin replied back as they got out of the tub, wrapping the towel around their bodies. They were worried that I would be unstable if I relied it too much, and if I remained a shinobi here. Don't worry, Shin, you'll be fine, Shinosuke replied back again as they went to change to their sleeping pajamas. In the Musashi household, Amaya was having a supper conversation with her older brother and her parents. Her brother has a slash and a burn scar on his face, which made him feared even among his own family. Chosen Oni-san, how is the role of the Prime Minister of Yuki no Kuni today? Amaya asked her brother. He replied back with a tired voice. It's fine, Amaya-chan. It's just that I have a lot of paperwork to be done after what happened with Koyuki Itoko resuming her place as the daimyo of our country. Chosen Musashi replied back as he bit down into the sashimi. With a dramatic increase in the military ranks as a result of the generator being perfected, our people are getting healthier with the harvest and we're getting richer by the minute. Even the colonies were undergoing an industrial revolution with new factories set up. Yeah, the colonies that Dodo conquered from Hai no Kuni and Mizu no Teikoku. Tsuchi no Rengoukai is also undergoing reforms as well. Amaya replied back as she finished her meal. Well, gotta help out in the kitchen. Yeah, go ahead, Amaya-chan. Amaya's mother replied back as Amaya went to the kitchen. The next morning, Naruto was going to see the Yukikage with more information. He bowed to the aides that were inside the office as he entered the Yukikage's office. Daisuke was doing the paperwork as Naruto bowed to him. Naruto-san, how can I help you? Daisuke says he looked up to him. He paused for a moment and then remembered something. Oh yeah, I wanted to see you because Mamoru-sensei and his team was going to help you train to become a chunin through our assessment. Oh yeah, Yukikage-sama. Naruto replied back as Daisuke got out a box containing Naruto's new clothes and his new advanced chakra armor. What are these? These are your new clothes for your training as well as your new chakra armor. Unlike the models that were used by Fubuki and her squad, this new armor enhances your taijutsu skills and increases your speed. I wanted you to wear this because you are going to be commissioned into your rank after a little training. And not to mention that we will design an ultimate chakra armor that will be immune to even taijutsu, while the wearer deals with more damage in taijutsu while wearing that armor. Don't forget, since you are clearly hunted down by your former village, I suggest that you wear a mask. 2 masks to be exact. One that covers your lower part of your face, and one that covers your eyes. Daisuke explained as Naruto's eyes gleamed in the sight of his new clothing. Can you change into your new clothing, Naruto-san? Okay. Naruto replied as he went into the changing room that was located beside the Yukikage's office. He put on the official Yukigakure clothing as well as the chakra armor prototype that Daisuke included in the box. When he was finished, he went back to the office and the Yukikage was pleased. So, after this, you will meet Mamoru-sensei in training ground number 9, which is located just a little off the village. He said as Naruto bowed and left. Naruto took his time to explore the village as he sped through the entire sector trying to get out. He eventually managed to get out of the village and into the fields where he can see Mamoru's team out. Naruto-san, join us. Mamoru said as Shinosuke and Shin waved at him. Naruto then caught up to them and bowed. That's the spirit. Now, can you tell us more about yourself before we go on training you? Okay, Mamoru-sensei. My name's Naruto Uzumaki, or Namikaze. I was told about my real last name yesterday, and I know Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. My goal was to be Hokage, but I was kicked out of Konoha. Naruto said as Amaya looked at him with sympathy. I don't have a new goal now. I see. So you know the Kage Bunshin, which will be handy for our one-day training before commissioning you into our ranks as a Chunin, assuming that you pass our test. Mamoru said as he got out his katana. Since I'm part Kagaya, I know the Shikatsumyaku, so you may find this a little unfamiliar. But I won't use it though. Mamoru then charged at Naruto, who then made some hand signs. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. 10 Naruto clones then countered the sword slash with their kunai as Shinosuke and Shin made some hands jins. Hyeten. Hyo Tsurugi no Jutsu. They yelled as a large ice katana attempted to impale the Naruto clones, but all of them were dispelled. Shin activated his Sharingan and scanned the area for the real Naruto. Where is he? The real Naruto then was charging at Mamoru with a clone holding a ball of chakra. Mamoru noticed the diversion and grabbed both Naruto's arms and threw them into the trees. He grinned as the Naruto Bunshin dispelled itself. Well done, Naruto. I didn't know you were taught the Rasengan. He said as Naruto got up. That was amazing. From what the Yukikage told me, you also knew the Kachiyose no Jutsu, right? Yes, Mamoru-sensei. But my summon is a toad. Naruto replied as Mamoru frowned. What is it? A toad wouldn't do well in this frosty environment. Mamoru replied as Naruto sighed. Not to mention that the toad contract is a Konoha contract. The Yuki contract is composed of almost all Arctic foxes, wolves, polar bears, sea lions and walruses. So what do I do about my contract? Naruto asked. Well, you'll have to summon your current contract and tell him the sad news. Mamoru said as he made some hand signs. Kachiyose no Jutsu. Naruto yelled as the large toad appeared. Chief Toad, I have some sad news for you. Why yes, Gaki. You can't summon me here because of the cold. But I realized that when you are no longer a Konoha shinobi, there goes your toad family as well. Gamabunta said as he sighed in disappointment. Well, Gaki. It's been nice having you as a henchman. Okay, Chief. Naruto said as the scroll with the contract opened and Naruto's name disappeared from the contract. Gamabunta then disappeared as well. Mamoru sighed in sadness as Shin looked at them. At least you can summon an animal that would be suitable for this kind of weather. Shin said as Naruto was handed a scroll. Mamoru then proceeded to explain the scroll. The scroll that I gave you is a summoning contract for the Arctic Fox contract. I think that your tenant would be pleased that it would have its cousin to fight along. He explained. Naruto, all you have to do is sign your name on that contract and then summon them. Naruto opened the scroll as he bit his thumb and signed his name in blood. Then he made the SME hand signs as before, and a minute later, a gigantic white fox appeared. So, this is the kit that my cousin was sealed in. Grunted the great white fox as Naruto gaped at it. Kit, I am the Arctic Yoko, and I am not a kitsune. Wow, really? Naruto said as the white fox extended its paw. He shook hands with the fox as Amaya giggled. All right, it's time to train. Mamoru said as they resumed training with the white fox disappearing into its own world. Naruto, let me teach you some tactical training. It appears that your specialty is the Kage Bunshin. Since you were well adapted to that technique, I ought to teach you blitzkrieg tactics with those Bunshins. Okay, so what are these blitz tactics are you going to teach me? Naruto asked. Mamoru chuckled as he gave out the answer. For instance, you'll create your taijutsu with those Bunshins. He replied as the Hibiki Jonin made a hand sign. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. A minute later, there were 10 Mamoru clones with katanas ready. They charged with blinding speed as the real Mamoru activated his Sharingan. The clones then leapt into the sky and flipped as they tried to kick the real deal. Bunshin Taiatari. They yelled as their kicks were being blocked by the real Mamoru. As soon as their kicks were countered, they diapulled right away. The real Mamoru then explained a bit more. I heard that you can do the Renden, right? He asked as Naruto nodded. Mamoru then grinned. This will be a lot easier now. Naruto then resumed his training with Team Mamoru as the Nadare was passing by. Mamoru noticed him and said out loud, Nadare-kun, what are you doing here? Mamoru-senpai, I was brought here by Yukikage-sama to tell you that the genin needs to be tested right away. Nadare replied back as Team Mamoru rushed back into the village as fast as they can. Shikamaru was not a happy camper, especially after hearing that Naruto was exiled and threatened with death if he ever came back to Konoha again. He sighed in relief that the mission was a success. However, all it costed them was their blonde teammate. Even his father was growing mad because the Uchiha traitor was given leniency, which shouldn't occur in the first place. But it wasn't his father who was angry, since Inoichi Yamanaka and Shuza Akamichi were also angry at their fellow council members for openly proclaiming that the Namikaze clan were a clan of traitors for making the blonde Jinchuriki a coordinator with a new type abilities. Like a certain masked man would say, their existence cannot be forgiven. Anyways, after hearing that his best friend got out of the hospital, the lazy Chunin went straight to the field and gazed at the clouds. Troublesome, and I thought Ino and Choji must be upset right now. He mumbled as his teammates came by to greet him. Choji, Ino, Shikamaru, what's wrong? Ino asked. She then realized what he was lonely about. Yeah, I'm kinda upset too. Makes me wish I had gone with Naruto-kun on his exile. Ino-chan, our families were one step closer to being executed for being the Yondaime Hokage's friends. Maybe the Yondaime and Naruto had some connection. Choji said as two more visitors came in the form of Kiba and Shino. We were just talking about our families being closer to being executed. I kinda realized that our lives were changed by Naruto. I guess that being Hokage wasn't going to cross his mind anymore. Kiba said as a certain pink-haired girl came in. This time, they glared at her. Hello, Sakura, Kiba said with a hint of poison on his tone. You have to understand, Sasuke-kun was hurt. Sakura started but Ino cut her off. Forehead girl, Sasuke-kun was trying to go to Otto for power. Even our families can't deny that, she replied. I know that Sasuke-kun was not himself. The cherry blossom girl said, but Choji angrily retorted. Yeah, and we nearly died for it, Sakura. He retorted as Shikamaru got up and left. Where are you going, Shikamaru? Back home, he said as Choji followed suit. This is one of those times when unity was on the breaking point. In the secret chamber, Danzo was telling the two same Nei Anbu that tried to kill Inoichi about a mission. Your mission is to kill the Kazuhana patchworker. If anyone interferes, kill them. He said, as you wish, Danzo-sama. The two Nei Anbu said as they left. Deep in an unknown area, 9 cloaked figures with red clouds on them were having a conversation. Conan, what of the news about the Kyuubi container? The figure asked. Pain, it's none other than Naruto Uzumaki. Your sister's son, Conan replied, causing this Pain figure to tremble. What is it? My nephew. My only nephew is a Jinchuriki and a coordinator to boot. Pain said as a figure with a Sharingan on spoke up. Perhaps we should be thinking about changing our goals. Instead of extracting the Biju, we should be thinking about having a home. Itachi spoke up. I heard that Naruto is exiled from Konoha for trying to bring back my foolish Ototo. Yeah, those vermin fools. Conan yelled out as Pain looked at her. So where is he now? In the little nation with a huge empire. Yuki no Kuni, where the last Kazuhana resides. A shark figure said. Yukigakure went to war with us one time. Kisame, how do you know about the Kazuhana clan? Itachi asked while jizzing around. Well, the Kazuhana clan were the first clan to be genetically enhanced, according to the former Mizukage. Kisame replied as a blonde figure spoke up. Well, it was a blast, wasn't it? Yeah, he said. The figure with the hunched back replied. Yeah, and now Konoha has become more infiltrated from the outside world. The morons that called themselves logos. They fight for a world where war would be the only option and where idiots can get rich with blood money. The puppeteer replied. Itachi chuckled at that antic. What's so funny? Konoha has become more corrupted. Perhaps it's time we meet my uncle in Yukigakure and ask him if he can take us. Instead of extracting the Biju, we can become guards to the Kazuhana princess. Itachi replied. Pain nodded as he had a tear on his eye. Naruto-kun, Pain said as he started to cry. Daisuke was waiting patiently for Mamoru to get back to the tower. He wanted to assess the young genin that they took in so that he can become a Yuki shinobi. When Nadare returned with Team Mamoru in tow, the Yukikage nodded for him to leave and for Mamoru to come in. So, I hear that young Naruto-san is improving in his skills, right? Daisuke asked. Hi, Yukikage-sama, I feel that Naruto-san is ready to be tested. He replied. Daisuke then gestured for Naruto to come closer. Naruto-kun, your test for becoming a chunin is simple. I want you to have an assessment spar with Midori-san. Daisuke said as Fubuki and Midori came into the room. Ah, I was just about to summon you here, Midori-san. So you wanted me to test the brat to see if he was going to become a chunin, right? Midori asked. Right. Daisuke replied as Team Mamoru went outside to the roof with the Yukikage watching. Naruto then bowed to Mizore as he also bowed back. Hajime. Naruto started to charge towards Midori as he made some hand signs. Hayatan. Haru Moko, he yelled out as a tiger came out of the glacier. Naruto dodged the move as Midori threw a kunai towards him. Naruto suddenly had a flash on his mind as a voice started to speak to him. Please save me, I'm about to be killed. Naruto instantly recognized the voice as he clutched his head. Midori and Nadare went up to him, with a medic Nin in tow. Naruto-kun, what is it? Nadare asked. My head is speaking to me in Koyuki Harem's voice. Telling me to save her. Naruto said as he ran out of the village. I gotta save her. Naruto-san, Mamoru said as he, Shinosuke, Shin and Amaya ran out of the village as well. Danger was approaching the Kazuhana princess as she was doing paperwork in the chambers of the capital palace. She had a flash in her mind as she sensed two unknown assassins about to kill her. Her theory was correct in the form of a uniformed rifleman rushing to her study. Koyuki-sama, we have assassins, he yelled as a kunai was struck in the soldier's back. Two Nei-Anbu shinobi with katanas ready were poised to kill her in a moment. Filthy patchworker, for taking the demon brat in, we will kill you, the first Nei-Anbu said. For the preservation of our blue and pure world, the second shinobi said as they were about to impale her in the chest when a blur came in and kicked the two Nei-Anbu shinobi back. The blue cosmos Nei-Anbu then gasped as Naruto stood in front of Koyuki. Demon brat, we are also going to finish what Danzo-sama started. Yeah, you vermin natural. Let me kick you out of here. Naruto yelled as he charged at the Nei-Anbu, but the first shinobi kicked him in the back. Then the second Nei-Anbu tried to impale the blonde Jinchuriki when Naruto closed his eyes. When he opened his eyes, he found himself blocking the blade with his own bleeding hand and his eyes change. Great, now that demon brat unlocks the accursed Rinnegan. The first Nei-Anbu shuddered as Naruto slashed at the second Nei-Anbu, instantly killing him. No. Naruto then got a cage bunshin to form a ball of chakra as they charged together. Rasengan, he yelled as he drilled the ball of chakra into the first Nei-Anbu, killing him. When he finished killing the Nei-Anbu that Danzo sent, he went into the mirror and looked at his eyes. It had a series of circles in the eyes as the fully awakened Rinnegan gleamed. Just then, Team Mamoru burst into the room and saw the two Nei-Anbu shinobi dead. Naruto, why did you run out of the village? Mamoru said as realization dawned on him. You are a new type. You can sense what will happen to anyone close to you. That's right, my nephew has also unlocked his true power. A figure said as the entire Akatsuki appeared. Naruto and the other Yuki shinobi turned around to see the entire Akatsuki glancing on them. Mamoru activated his Sharingan as the other figure also activated his Sharingan. So, Itachi, we meet again, Mamoru said as Itachi nodded. What do you guys want? We want to offer a permanent truce with this country and its shinobi village. Itachi replied as Shinosuke glared at the elder Uchiha. I know about my two cousins that are in your team, Mamoru Itoko. Yeah, so you'd better explain why you are here. I thought you came here to catch us for the extraction of the Biju. Shinosuke said angrily. Pain was the one that replied back. I am here because I sensed my nephew activate the Rinnegan. It's about time that he learned about the uses of the Rinnegan. Pain said as he looked at Naruto. Naruto-kun can learn jutsus faster with those eyes, as well as manipulating all 6 forms of nature manipulation instead of 5. So, Pain-sama, you mean I can learn faster with my new eyes? Naruto asked. Pain nodded as he smiled. Well, with my new Kekkei Genkei, I can also learn medical jutsus as well as enhancing my chakra. Yes, but you only had the yin chakra of the Kyuubi. I may not be a seal master, but someone here can do the Fuinjutsu. Pain said as Mamoru spoke up. I am efficient in seals, but the seal that Naruto has would be better looked by a sage. Someone like Jiraiya-sama, Mamoru replied. Pain and Konan winced at the mention of Jiraiya's name and Naruto felt dumbstruck. Ero Sennin? Why him? Oh yeah, he can do the seals better. Naruto said as the same people that winced at his name were now laughing. You called Jiraiya-sensei Ero Sennin? Pain asked while trying to control his laughter. Then again, he was doing research while leaving us, right Konan? Yes, I can never forget that pervert. Konan replied. At least Yahiko didn't get perverted. The Akatsuki then accompanied the Yuki shinobi back to the village as Koyuki decided to tag along with them for fear of future assassinations. They rushed through the village walls and into the Yukikage Tower, where Daisuke was waiting. Naruto, what happened? Daisuke asked as Mamoru started to explain everything. When he was sparring Mizore, his new type senses clicked in, and he heard a voice telling him to save Koyuki Harem. Mamoru replied as the Yukikage frowned. While saving her, he also killed 2 Nei Anbu shinobi from Konoha and activated his Rinnegan at the same time. Can you imagine him unlocking 2 new dangerous weapons all in one day? Daisuke was shocked at what he heard. He then said, so that Durandal man is right after all, Naruto is a new type and a coordinator. And not to mention that he also unlocked the Rinnegan as well. But if I may ask, why do you have a group of S-class nuke nin with you? Because they had a change of heart, especially the leader. It also seems that your nephew was among them. Mamoru said as Itachi stepped forward. Itachi, I heard about the top secret mission. You were ordered to kill your own clan by Konoha's elders, is that right? Daisuke asked as they entered the tower. Yes, Daisuke Oji-sama. Itachi replied as Shinosuke frowned. I am aware of the fact that there are members of the Uchiha clan that married into the other clans outside Konoha. Yes, Itachi Itoko. Shinosuke said as Shin looked at the elder Uchiha. My younger cousin was branded with the Cursed Seal and also progressed into the 2nd level without killing himself. Yeah, unlike a certain asshole in Konoha who was the reason why Naruto was kicked out of his own village. Shin replied as the Akatsuki and Koyuki waited in front of the office. Daisuke then got out a piece of paper and a Yukigakure Hite 8. Well, it looks like Naruto passed. Naruto then stood at attention as Daisuke presented the Hite 8 to him. Naruto, since our assessment was interrupted by your new powers guiding you to save our daimyo, I promote you to the rank of Chunin and I also commission you to the Yukigakure shinobi forces. Do you promise to uphold the laws and policies of our village and not let harm come into our people? Daisuke said as Naruto held up his hand. Yes, Yukikage-sama, Naruto replied back. Then, congratulations. Naruto, you are officially a Yukigakure Chunin. Since Mamoru-sensei has 3 people in his team, you will become an apprentice of Fubuki Kakuyoku, Nadare Roga and Mizore Fuyukuma. You will also undergo a rigorous training regimen under your Uncle Pain and the rest of the Akatsuki in developing your new powers. Daisuke said as Naruto saluted. Good, and that will be all for the day. Oh, can you get the Akatsuki for me on the way out? Yes, Yukikage-sama, Naruto replied as he exited from the Yukikage's office to see Pain and the rest of the Akatsuki coming in. Good luck. Thanks, Gaki, Konan replied as they entered the office. Daisuke then looked at them with interest. So, I heard that you are wanted in the bingo books for previous crimes committed in your former villages. Daisuke reported as Itachi glanced at him. But I can give you amnesty if you can train Naruto to his potential, and I mean to the bone. Your status as nuke nins can be cleared if you enact as bodyguards to the daimyo of Yuki no Kuni. Do you accept? Yes, we accept. If we didn't, you would have killed us without hesitation. Itachi replied as Pain also spoke up. What will we train Naruto with, what techniques? Pain asked. You will teach him how to use the Rinnegan as well as more jutsus. Fubuki, Mizore and Nadare can teach him some taijutsu while Itachi can teach him genjutsu. He replied back. After I say anything more, you all will be dismissed. Train him for a month, and after he has finished training I will give him missions to be completed. The Akatsuki then left the office as Daisuke resumed his paperwork. Jiraiya was not a happy old man. After hearing about Naruto's exile from his former teammate the Godem Hokage Tsunade. He was originally planning to take Naruto to a 3-year training trip, but his exile and the threat of execution had sunk the idea to the bottom. Right now, he was peeping less in the hot springs and more on searching for the blonde Jinchuriki. While he was searching, one of the informants came up to him in the border town before crossing into Aim no Kuni. Jiraiya-sama, we have news about the Uzumaki boy, she said as Jiraiya listened. What is it? He asked. He is in the same country where the Kazuhana princess is ruling. I also heard the rumor that the Akatsuki are changing their goals after hearing about Pain-sama reacting to Konan-sama's news of the container of the Kyuubi being his nephew. The informant said as Jiraiya grew shocked at the news. So his old students from AIM were taking care of the Gaki, aren't they? Well, the Toad Sanin nodded as the informant left him and he started to dash back to Konoha. When he arrived at the gate, he rushed to the Hokage tower where Tsunade was doing some paperwork. He then jumped into the room and stood beside her. You better have a good reason why I shouldn't pummel you, Jiraiya. Tsunade said as Jiraiya spoke up. I have news about the Gaki. He replied, causing the slug Sanin to look up. He apparently fled to Yuki no Kuni with the help from the Yuki shinobi that were surveilling Hai no Kuni. It also appears that from the rumors that I heard, there was a man from the outside world that came into Yukigakure no Sato and confirmed the theory about Naruto being Minato's son and a confirmed new type. Yeah, and the villagers were almost going to revolt at the idea of having a new type in their midst. That reminds me, what happened to Kojiro Haruno? Tsunade said. From what I heard, he was banished from his clan for being a new type, even though he was a natural. From what I heard, he was sent to the outside world where he was barbarically treated like a toy in the hopes of creating what they called an extended. But it turned out that he is also in Yuki no Kuni, under the instruction of one Nadare Roga. Jiraiya explained. Hell, even your apprentice didn't like her older brother. She's not my apprentice the moment that she helped with Naruto's exile and threat of death. In the outside world, they would call her a Nazi or a fascist. Tsunade replied back. Now, thank you for the information. Just leave me alone. All right, Jiraiya said as he left the Hokage tower and went back on to searching for Naruto, now knowing where to go. In a holding cell, there was a boy that occupied the place. He was a traitor to the village for defecting to a snake whose existence cannot be forgiven. Although Sasuke Uchiha was granted leniency by the majority of the village council, the shinobi clans refused to do so. It was under a threat of a Blue Cosmos gunman that threatened the said shinobi clans with death did they change their minds. It wouldn't be long before Konoha plunges into a civil war that would only end in a brutal triumph for the ultra-radical fascist Nei faction of the Warhawk Danzo. And I should have killed the Dobi. Sasuke mumbled all over again. It was a long day for the last Uchiha until he received visitors in the form of the fascist elders, Homura and Kaharu. What is it? Sasuke-san, we are here on your behalf. There will be a trial, but we haven't set the date yet. Homura said as Kaharu nodded. We will clear you of all charges if you promise us one thing. Kaharu said. What is it? Sasuke asked. That you join Nei, said a voice. Homura and Kaharu bowed as Danzo came into light. We cannot allow the Sharingan to become extinct, for that is too valuable to our village's prestige and survival. Just then, there was one Nei messenger rushing in, with a horrified look on his face. Danzo-sama, what is it? He asked. The demon. He has that accursed eye. The messenger said as the three elders suddenly froze. So the demon brat has unlocked the Rinnegan after all. And not only that, it killed 2 of our men trying to eliminate the Kazuhana patchworker. Damnation! Danzo yelled as Sasuke listened. And anything else? We also found out that Yuki shinobi were the ones that drove our men away from the demon brat. Led by none other than Mamoru Uchiha Kagaya Hibiki, and with him, Shinosuke and Shin Asuka. The descendants of the émigré Uchihas. The messenger replied, causing him to faint. Homura gritted his teeth in anger. So the demon brat has also unlocked his new type potential. It would be only a matter of time before Logos and Blue Cosmos get sunk. Homura said angrily as Sasuke glanced at them. Sasuke-san, you are our salvation. You must be able to kill the demon brat. I'll do whatever it takes. Sasuke said as the elders left the prison cell. Homura and Koharu accompanied Danzo to the Hokage's office where Tsunade was working. Already she was pissed off because she was interrupted once already. But when she looked up, she gritted her teeth. Let me guess, more, I want the demon brat dead message? Tsunade asked smugly. No, but hear us out. Homura said as Tsunade was listening. We felt that Sasuke Uchiha is too valuable to be executed. So what we're asking is that we give him a fair trial. When hell freezes over, I'll do that. She replied angrily as Danzo smirked. What is it? Just then, a masked gunman aimed his assault rifle at the slug Sannin as she trembled. The gunman then shot up the ceiling as an intimidation. If you don't give us what we want, we're going to take hostages. Danzo said as the gunman reloaded his rifle. So, what will it be? All right, a fair trial it is. Tsunade conceded. That's good, I knew you'd see things our way. Just so you would follow what we say, we're taking this woman hostage. Koharu said as the gunman dragged Shizune into the room with the gun pointing at her head. Disobey us and she dies. Tsunade was shocked. Clearly, her authority as the Hokage was becoming less important as events that preceded Naruto's exile grew worse. She also knew that the gunman belonged to the outside world's most notorious terrorist organization, the Blue Cosmos. It was going to be a long time before her authority would be reorganized. When Jiraiya left the border of Hai no Kuni, he was surprised that there were modern naval ships that docked in Ocha no Kuni. Or rather, the occupied Ocha no Kuni, as Yuki no Kuni under Dodo had conquered it from Mizu no Teikoku. He had another mission to do, one that can potentially place Yuki no Kuni and Yukigakure in danger. He was going to seal the Yang chakra of the Kyuubi into Naruto, so that he would have a complete access to the Great Biju's chakra. As the Toad Sannin had gotten a boat from a wealthy merchant, they sailed in a fast wind. So, it only took a few hours for them to reach the homeland of the nation of coordinators that couldn't go to the plants or stay in the Orb Union. I'm coming, Gaki, Jiraiya said as they sailed on. When they finally reached Yuki no Kuni, they borrowed a snowmobile and rushed to the village where Naruto is located. But when they arrived, Jiraiya was not expecting to see his only apprentice being accompanied by two of his former students. Jiraiya then rushed towards them. Naruto, what are you doing there? Get away from them. Pain decided to speak up for him. Jiraiya-sensei, we're not taking him to our base. We have a new goal now, to serve the daimyo of Yuki no Kuni. Last time I checked, you and Konan were in aim. Smashing Hanzo up and taking over. The Toad Sannin replied as Naruto looked up to him. Gaki, I came here to check on your seal. I have the other key to your tenant's chakra. Really, Jiraiya-sensei? Konan replied as she came over to see the commotion. Did you hear that Naruto-kun activated the Rinnegan? Show them, Naruto-kun. Naruto nodded as he focused his chakra on his eyes and opened them. There it was, the all-powerful Rinnegan. The eyes that can either save the world or destroy the world. So, Pain, or Nagato rather, you ought to be proud that your sister's son has become stronger. Jiraiya said as Mamoru and his team came up to them along with a brown-haired boy with green eyes. The Toad Sannin looked at him with interest. So you're Kojiro Haruno that was missing from Konoha. Yeah, Jiraiya-sama, I was kicked out of my clan because I have those spatial awareness. The Haruno kid said as Shin glanced at him. I'm the older one. Sakura Teme is the younger more perfect girl in the family. You know Sakura-chan? Naruto asked. I prefer you don't call her that. As far as I'm concerned, she's the reason why you're kicked out of Konoha. You and I are similar, and so does Shin Asuka. Kojiro said as Shin spoke up. Well, we'd better get to an abandoned field where we can seal the Yang chakra into Naruto. Jiraiya said as Mamoru led him into the secluded part of the country. There, the Toad Sannin made some complicated hand signs as a scroll appeared. This is the key to the Yang chakra. He and Mamoru then memorized the seal as Naruto lay down onto the snowy field. Suddenly, there was a dark sinister chakra that appeared out of nowhere and started to get inside the blonde Jinchuriki. Naruto screamed as Mamoru placed a seal of suppress on his head. "Just hang in there, Naruto." Mamoru yelled as the yang chakra suddenly sealed itself inside and the Kyuubi itself was speaking. "Well, the kid has finally received the other half of my chakra," the Kyuubi said. "And well done on summoning my kin." Naruto then fainted on the ground as Jiraiya picked him up. He then asked Mamoru something that puzzled him. What did the Kyuubi meant that Naruto summoned his kin? He asked while rushing back to the village. "Well, I explained to him that the Toad contract is a Konoha contract. Since he was exiled, the contract would be nullified and he needs a Yukigakure contract. So he summoned an Arctic fox." Mamoru replied as Jiraiya nodded. "Well, I was angry that the council in my village decided to banish him." Jiraiya added as Mamoru told him something else. "I have a spy in the Konoha Anbu ranks. But she's under surveillance because she might defect to us soon," he said as they reached the Yukikage Tower. "Here we are." When Jiraiya and Mamoru were accompanying an unconscious Naruto into the tower along with Mamoru's team and the Akatsuki, Daisuke was still doing his paperwork. He looked up at the visitors that arrived and sighed. "Let me guess, you tweaked his Biju's seal," he said as Jiraiya explained. "The Kyuubi's chakra is leaking at some point. I just reinforced the seal with the yang chakra that was separated from the yin chakra," the Toad Sannin explained. "So now, Naruto is able to concentrate more on his training. I assigned Fubuki, Mizore and Nadare for his taijutsu training while I got the entire Akatsuki to train him in ninjutsu and genjutsu as well as kinjutsu." Daisuke replied as Jiraiya had a worried look. "I assure you, the Akatsuki had a change of heart the moment that Pain found out about Naruto. He must have been guilty that he didn't take care of him when Kushina died. Why did Naruto found out about his parents at this age? He should have waited until he's older," Jiraiya said, but Daisuke shook his head. The man from the plants in outer space wanted to confirm about his heritage because Minato was the one that went to Yulin Hibiki and gave him permission to use their son as a byproduct for the Ultimate Coordinator project. Daisuke explained. That Durandal character confirmed Naruto's status as a new type and a coordinator when he took a DNA sample. Not only that, the evidence supports it in the form of his spatial awareness that was unlocked when Koyuki was almost assassinated by Nei. So Danzo must have sensed that the daimyo of this country is also a coordinator. The Toad Sannin replied as Mamoru spoke up. "It was because of that Naruto activated the Rinnegan," he said as he left the office. "We'd better get rested so we can start the Gaki's training," Jiraiya replied as he too left the office. He returned back to Konoha that night. The next morning, Naruto was standing in front of the entire Akatsuki while Fubuki, Mizore and Nadare looked at them. Pain was giving out the instructions. "Naruto-kun, we are going to be responsible for your training for a month. The training will be hard, so we want you to work hard to the bone," he said as Naruto listened. "For a month, we will train you in the arts of ninjutsu, taijutsu, genjutsu and kenjutsu. Since you lack the talent to cast a genjutsu, we will work on that first. The next week, we will be working on your taijutsu skills, since your taijutsu is mediocre. The third week, we will work on your ninjutsu and kenjutsu skills because the last week, I want to train you in the usage of the Rinnegan with all the things that you have learned. So for the entire month, you need to learn how to use the Rinnegan properly." "Okay," Naruto said as Pain nodded. "After this, we will also train more people for the planned creation of Hyakuniju Jutai Shotai," Konan replied as she smiled at Naruto. "Well, let's get started." The first week, Naruto and 1,000 Kage Bunchins read up about the uses of genjutsu. They were constantly reading the scrolls so much that the real Naruto had learned about how to create his own genjutsu, in addition to Itachi's lesson on casting and counter-casting genjutsu. By the end of the week, Naruto was having a spar with Itachi using only genjutsu. "Show me what you've learned, Naruto," Itachi said as Naruto made some hand signs. "Megan. Chimayu Genzo no Jutsu," he said as the surroundings grew into an alternate world where Itachi was seeing a vision of Sasuke impaling him. He then made a hand sign and released the genjutsu. "Very good, Naruto-kun. That was a B-rank genjutsu. Now, show me the A-rank genjutsu that you made," Itachi said. Naruto made some hand signs as another illusion came up. "Megan. Naraku no Kokugaku no Jutsu. This time, the view became horrifying as Itachi listened to the horrible music that affected his ears. He then released the genjutsu. Very well, Naruto-kun. Now, show me the S-rank genjutsu that can match up to my Tsukuyomi. Itachi would have regretted saying that, because Naruto was making a weird some sort of hand signs as the view became more horrifying. Megan. Naraku Kokoronokazu Kokugaku no Jutsu. He yelled as Itachi was caught in a deadly alternate world that is terrifyingly similar to the Tsukuyomi as he looked at a masked man with an insane laugh on a weird machine. He said, "You're something that shouldn't exist, boy." Itachi released the genjutsu as he grew tired of releasing more genjutsus. You pass, Naruto-kun. Thank you, Itachi-san. Naruto said as he bowed to him. For the first time in his life, Naruto had found his talent in learning more jutsus, unlike a certain snake Sanin. The next week, Naruto found himself working out with the chakra weights as Fubuki drilled him in taijutsu. Midori would help out whenever Naruto felt he was ready to have a spar, only to get his ass kicked every time by the blonde. Mamoru also decided to help out with the same blitzkrieg techniques he taught him before the Akatsuki showed up. One day, he was teaching Naruto a lesson on speed. Your father was the inventor of the Hiraishin no Jutsu as well as the Rasengan. So, you gather your chakra on your feet and run through the forest right there. He instructed as Naruto did as he was told. He was at first having a hard time doing it. But then he created 20 kage bunshins and perfected the Hiraishin after a whopping 50 tries. Hiraishin no Jutsu, Naruto said as he ran through the snow-covered forest in a flash. Mamoru saw the result and clapped his hands together. There was no assessment for Naruto's taijutsu skills because Nader simply didn't need to assess him. By the end of the week, he was able to win a spar with Mamoru and his team combined twice a day, and lost 3 times a day. The next week was exciting for the blonde, since ninjutsu was his favorite lesson to do. Especially when he heard some news from Pain. Naruto-kun, I heard from my sources that you can do the Rasengan, right? He asked. When Naruto nodded, Pain told him some news. I'm afraid the Rasengan is half complete. What do you mean, half complete? Naruto asked Pain. The Rasengan was meant to be combined with your father's elemental affinity, which is air. Let's see your elemental affinity by using your chakra to test out the paper. Pain replied by handing out a slip of paper as Naruto placed his chakra into the paper. Just as Pain predicted, the paper burned, soaked, turned to dust, crumpled, split and froze. Well, looks like this may be fun after all. Naruto-kun, you are going to create your own jutsu. But first, we have to get you and your clones to do some elemental exercise before creating the jutsus. He replied as Naruto made a hand sign. Taju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Naruto yelled as thousands of his clones appeared. Pain then explained the instruction. Alright, since there are 6 elements that your original copy has possessed, we will split the jobs of exercising nature manipulation. First of all, 150 clones will try to walk twirl around water, while the other 150 will split the waterfall that's over there. 150 clones will try to meditate under a hot flame, while the other 150 will do ice skating. Also, there will be 150 clones that will try to redirect lightning into the sky while the last 150 clones will climb the mountain with a rock in their backs. The remaining 100 clones will be learning the theory of ninjutsu with the Rinnegan. Got it? Pain explained as the Naruto clones saluted. Then disperse and do it. For 3 straight days, the Naruto clones attempted to do all these exercises, but to no avail. It wasn't until the last night of the 3rd day that all of the clones had mastered all the exercises that Pain had instructed. Now was the real part for Naruto as he got to combine his Rasengan with all of his elements. Alright, Naruto-kun. Pain said during the 4th day. Let's first try to combine your wind manipulation with the Rasengan. Naruto once again summoned 100 clones as they attempted to create the wind variation of the Rasengan, but the jutsu kept on failing. Even as the 5th and 6th day went by, Naruto and his clones kept on failing to create the new jutsu. It wasn't until the last day that Naruto managed to create the perfect jutsu. Come on, Naruto said as the Rasengan began to form. At last, a swirling ball of air was formed, but the airball grew bigger as a gigantic shuriken formed. Naruto finally dispelled the new jutsu with a tired arm. I'll call my new jutsu futon. Rasen Shuriken. And its half-complete form is the Futon Rasengan. When another week had gone by, Daisuke decided to visit Naruto while training for creating the next jutsu, which is a lightning variation of the Rasengan. Unlike the wind exercise, the lightning variation resulted in creating the Chidori and the Reikuri. Naruto-san, how are you doing? Daisuke asked as Naruto began to form the Chidori in his hand. Wow, I never realized that you can manipulate all elements. I'm fine, Yukikage-sama. Naruto grunted as he dispelled the Chidori. After seeing his progress, Daisuke then went to see Nadare and Mizore. Nadare-san, Mizore-san, Daisuke said as the two shinobi went up to him. How long is his training going to be? Another month, since he's creating new jutsus. Mizore said. From what I heard from Konan-sama, Naruto still has to learn to place fire, water, earth and ice. Not to mention that Naruto will be learning Mokuton and another jutsu that combines earth and fire. I see, at least the Jonin exam is not until the month after next month. Daisuke said as he returned back to the office. Pain was supervising Naruto's next attempt, which was adding fire to the Rasengan. Like the lightning variation, it only took him a few hours to create the fire jutsu, and a lot easier since fire can be forced. Ow! Naruto yelled out as he dipped his burned hand into the snow and massaging it. I'll call my fire variant Kaden. Rasen Shuriken Bakuden. Water variation was a lot harder than air, since Naruto had to create the next jutsu in the water. After a few days, 5 days to be exact, Naruto finally had a swirling mini whirlpool in his hand. The new name for the water variant is Suiden, Uzumaki Rasen Shuriken. Ice variation was the hardest, since Naruto is combining water and air to make an icy swirling ball. Even a week and a half had passed by and Naruto still haven't created the jutsu. It was only in the coldest time of the year that his jutsu finally came to fruition. Come on, Naruto said again as a swirling chunk of ice had formed in his hand. The swirling ice ball had stayed in his hand this time, but suddenly it grew bigger, until it was the same size as the futon. Rasen Shuriken. I'll call this one the Hyoden. Rasen Shuriken Ugatsu. Finally, the Earth Rasengan variation was created within a few days. But it was by luck that Naruto had managed to stabilize the jutsu, giving the name Doden. Rasen Ugatsu. The last week that Naruto and Pain trained together was the uses of the Rinnegan. Naruto had quickly learned how to use it when he was sparring with Pain, because he can come up with a strategy to counter the move in a blink of an eye. Well done, my nephew. Pain said as Konan joined him a minute later. What is it, Konan? Yukikage-sama wants to see you. Konan said as Naruto and Pain rushed into the Yukikage's office. They found Daisuke resting from the paperwork that he's done, and that he and the other Akatsukis were waiting for their leader. Here they are. Ah, Naruto-san, I was expecting you, he said as Naruto sat down in a chair. How would you like to be an instructor for a new raw recruits of shinobi to form the Hyakuniju Shutai Shotai? So, how is that for a training? You get paid an equivalent of an S-rank mission and you also earn leadership skills. If that is you wish, I shall do it, Naruto said as he shook Daisuke's hands. Very well, he said, starting tomorrow, until the Jonin exams start. You will teach young genin with a lot of potential. You can also recruit Chunin and Jonin for this platoon after you've finished the Jonin exams. Naruto nodded as he left the office, pleased at the prospect of molding young minds into powerful shinobi. After Naruto accepted the offer to teach a bunch of young genin that will have the potential to become a member of the Hyakuniju Shutai Shotai, or the 120 Zodiac platoon that will be formed. The said Chunin was looking at the raw recruits that were chosen were young, energetic and teachable. Among the recruits that is going to be trained as officers were Kojiro Haruno, the guy that hated his own clan. Anyways, when Naruto finally got started, he gave out a speech. Young recruits of Yukigakure no Sato, how are you all doing today? He said as a chorus of I'm fines came up. When I was offered to help train young potential shinobi to become the elite, I immediately accepted. I accepted because I wanted to learn how to influence a lot of people, which I have never done before. Rest assured, by the time I'm finished training you all up, we have learned something about each other as well as ourselves. I also wanted to help out any shinobi that were considered a dropout and a failure to overcome their obstacles and join this group dedicated to protecting the Yukikage and the daimyo of our nation. We are the elite, but we will earn the title by working hard. Power is something that we don't inherit from birth. It is something that we earn by proving ourselves. Finally, one more thing. By the time this training is complete, you will all function better as Yuki Shinobi and prove to the 5 elemental nations that Yukigakure no Sato and Yuki no Kuni must be recognized as the 6th member. That is all, and let's work together to achieve our goals. The recruits clapped their hands together, having listened to their future leaders' speeches. It also shocked Naruto that all of the recruits as well as the entire population of Yuki no Kuni with its colonies are coordinators. It was going to be a long month, but what he shouldn't forget was that the Jonin exams are coming up. The exams can be an opportunity for the new recruits to prove themselves and to incite more enlistment of young shinobi into its elite unit. Of course, there's the Yukigakure Anbu, but this new unit will serve as its version of Konoha's Ne. The dreaded Ne, which is notoriously infamous for carrying out extermination actions against coordinators in Konoha. The blonde then continued to speak up. Starting in the morning, all of you will meet here for a warm-up, which will consist of 500 laps around the village, 50 sets of push-ups, 50 sets of sit-ups, 100 squats, and constant yoga lessons. Next week, those sets will be doubled, and the week after will be tripled the sets, and the last week the sets will be quadrupled. You all will be carrying chakra weights to help build up strength and stamina as enlarging chakra reserves. I will also be doing these myself, since I want to be able to connect with you all. After all, you all are my comrades and the village's comrades. By the way, my name's Naruto Uzumaki and I will be your leader for this program. Many more applauses happened after he finished the speech. Naruto then decided to join the groups for the first warm-up exercise as they ran in a unison, kind of like a military exercise. More militaristic-styled training came up when the new recruits were doing push-ups with their weights on. Naruto was nodding his head at the first impression of the new recruits. Perhaps they are going to become members after all, he thought as he finished the warm-ups with his new army of recruits. Naruto then went to the Yukikage Tower, expecting to see the Yukikage engaged in a series of paperwork. However, when he got there, Daisuke was standing in front of him. "So, how's the new regimen?" he asked as Naruto nodded. "Ah, I just had this top-secret project finished with the latest chakra armor. This prototype armor is actually expanded to include the arm and the leg guards of the armor, calling it the chakra exosuit. This new exosuit gives the wearer unlimited strength in taijutsu attacks, as well as immunity from ninjutsu and genjutsu. However, the exosuit also changes color at the wearer's will, given the fact that when you wear this exosuit, your new type senses allows it to change. So when do I get to wear it?" Naruto asked. "Now, since I want you to train and fight in this new exosuit. After this new regimen, you will be adapted in the new suit. A warning however, the exosuit also turns you into a hardened warrior with emotions suppressed. So you'll adapt better on the battlefield, but at tremendous cost in the form of your emotions. Your new exosuit comes with 2 sets of gauntlets for your hands, as well as 2 new sei equipped in your holsters along with kunai and shuriken. The sword will come in later, since you'll train in kenjutsu with all your recruits. The exosuit also comes in with a helmet that can totally mask your already masked face. So it's like a mask within a mask. By the way, I also want to see you after your speech." "Thank you, Yukikage-sama," said Naruto as he bowed and left. Once he left the office, Naruto then went to the bathroom and changed into his new exosuit. When he was done, the new Chunin in exosuit marched onto the training field where he was about to address his new recruits about what will they learn. Naruto counted the number of recruits, and was shocked to find that there were over 9,000 shinobi that joined this elite army, already mixed with the number of a whopping 250,000 and 300 shinobi in arms. Already add that to the other 60% of the population as civilians, Yukigakure no Sato is a powerhouse. "Our leader is here," one of the recruits said as Naruto stepped out into a podium. He silenced them with a gesture as the crowd fell quiet. "For our real training, we will emphasize on versatility. All of you must have lessons in ninjutsu, genjutsu, taijutsu and kenjutsu. There will be a 1/6 of the recruits that will learn medical judas while another 1/6 of the recruits will learn fuinjutsu. The rest will learn regular things," he announced as the recruits still stayed silent. "This training will take a month to complete, so we have to constantly train past our limits." Naruto then stepped out of the podium as the crowd went to their first physical training. He ran into Daisuke with Shinosuke and Shin in tow. "Naruto-san, how's the speech?" Shin asked as Daisuke anticipated this news. "Great, but I don't know if it will take a month to master all of these." Naruto replied honestly as the Yukikage sighed. "They will, because the instructors are required to teach the Kage Bunshin as the recruits enlarge their chakra reserves." Daisuke replied, "I'm afraid we can't have the training for a month because the Jonin exams are coming. We already had to postpone it because of your training. But let me see if I can arrange for the exams to be held elsewhere." Just then, a messenger nin had arrived at the duo as Daisuke looked at him. "What is it?" he asked as the messenger nin delivered the message. He read it and was shocked at the contents of the message. "To the patchworker with the Sharingan. You have disturbed our attempts at our new order as you take in the demon brat that should have been executed in the most glorifying and brutal way possible. As a result, we the council on behalf of our Godem Hokage, hereby cut off relations with Yuki no Kuni and Yukigakure no Sato. Danzo-sama of Logos, leader of Ne, get the council immediately. Naruto, I want you in this meeting as well, since it concerns your former home." Daisuke ordered as he and the said blonde Jinchuriki rushed to Yukigakure's council chambers. "And get us the daimyo as well." "Hi, Yukikage-sama." The messenger nin replied as Naruto accompanied the Yukikage when suddenly he received another flash. When Naruto looked around, he saw a long blonde-haired man without the mask. "You are one of Durandal-san's patients." "Indeed I am, Asuka-san. My name's Raoul Le Creuset and I noticed a new type in the midst." The stranger said as Naruto looked at him through his helmet. "I'm certain that this young fellow is the new type that Gilbert was referring to." "Nice to meet you, sir," Naruto said as he shook Le Creuset's hands. When they reached the council chamber, they ran into yet another familiar face as well. "Durandal-san, right?" "Yes, Naruto-san, I see you've met Le Creuset as well. I know that you and he will become great friends when you all have joined Zaft." Durandal replied as he also shook the blonde Jinchuriki's hands. "We came here from the plants because I also want to see if you're genetically compatible with someone." "I see. Well, come with us and have a seat in the meeting." Daisuke replied as they went inside. Assembled in the chambers were countless numbers of clan heads as a group of civilian heads also came. "We have come here for one reason, and that is what to do with the threat that came from Konoha. It is disrespectful to our village's survival and sovereignty of our nation. We should have gone to war with them." One civilian head replied as another civilian spoke up. "Yukikage-sama, should we reject the threat?" The civilian that spoke up. "We don't want to suffer the same fate as those guys from Uzu no Kuni. We should mobilize our forces for self-defense purposes only." The Yukikage replied as Naruto was thinking. "And what about the Jonin exams? Should we postpone it?" The answer is no, we cannot postpone it, because other villages then would see us as weak and pathetic. But I agree that we should pull it back another 3 months in time for the new recruits to finish their training. The council members were then arguing more about this issue than any other thing as Daisuke massaged his head. Naruto then decided to speak up. "It's true that we should pull the Jonin exams 3 months back, but by the time that happens, there is another village that would host the exams." Naruto said as Daisuke looked at him. "I'm not sure what the threat from Konoha would do to us, but we can launch a preemptive strike if the threat grows bigger." "Naruto-san, I'm not sure if that's a good idea." Daisuke replied back as another civilian spoke up, this time a representative from the armed forces of Yuki no Kuni. "Our men can do the job. Just tell us when and where and we'll do it," the military attaché replied. Just then, a messenger hawk came into the council chamber and went straight to the Yukikage's arms. Daisuke then opened the letter and read it. He again grew shocked at the contents, but the message wasn't from Konoha. "Well, I'll be damned. Iwa and Kumo are planning to recognize us as the 6th great nation along with Kiri," he said as Naruto glanced at him. "Suna would have recognized us right away if it wasn't for Konoha's dangerous attitude." "So, what are we going to do?" another civilian head said. At that moment, Durandal spoke up. "I came back here because I want to see the genetic compatibilities Bedouin Naruto-san and another person in terms of procreation." Durandal explained as the council heads listened. "We can wait for Koyuki-sama and see if she can be a suitable match." When the discussions resumed, Durandal then summoned Naruto to yet another DNA extraction session by swabbing his mouth. Then, he placed the swabbed cotton swabber into a cylinder container and waited. After a few minutes, Koyuki arrived in the council chamber accompanied by Le Creuset. "Here is the princess, although she reminded me of the mother of that bastard Mu La Flaga." Le Creuset muttered as Koyuki bowed to him. "Thank you for escorting me, Le Creuset-san," Koyuki said as she went to Durandal and he swabbed her mouth. He then went to an abandoned laboratory where the DNA samples are researched. While he started to do the research, Le Creuset then started to speak for the Yukikage. "It's true that this village has to postpone the assessment event, because of the length of time that it takes to fully train an army. Seeing as if they were tested right away while their training is half complete, it would be like sending a half-trained platoon of soldiers to combat 3 army divisions at once." Le Creuset explained as the councillors gasped at his logic. "The last thing that you people want to do is to deploy this elite unit while they are still training." "You may be right, kind stranger," one of the shinobi heads replied. "But how can we just ignore the threat from Konoha when we can be in great danger?" "Simple, you play power diplomacy, as you buy time," Le Creuset replied back as Durandal came back with the results. "What is it, Gilbert?" "Well, Naruto and Koyuki Harem are indeed a match, since their new type senses complement each other," Durandal said. "It also states that my planned formation of the Destiny Plan is successful in finding matches for future generation creations." "All right, getting back to the task at hand," Daisuke said as he banged the gavel. "Le Creuset-san is right. We got to buy time while the threat is still hanging from the balance. If we play our cards right, Iwa and Kumo will convince Konoha to back off. Even if we can't count on them, we still have to launch a preemptive strike." The council murmured in agreement as the Yukikage concluded the meeting. Koyuki smiled at Naruto as she heard of Durandal's results. "Naruto-kun, I'm sure we can elope once this thing is over," she said as she hugged the blonde Jinchuriki in the exosuit. "Yes, my Harem, but there are matters which I have to take care of," Naruto replied. Mamoru and Shinosuke then passed by as Shin poked his back. "What is it? We have to be getting back," Shin replied as Koyuki once again was escorted out by Le Creuset. Meanwhile, Daisuke then instructed a messenger Nin. "I'll write a message to Konoha and see what happens," he said as the messenger Nin listened. In Konoha, Tsunade was never a happy camper. After yet hearing about how Shizune was taken hostage and used as an object lesson, she was not in the mood to talk to anyone right now. To make matters worse, Danzo came into the room as Kaharu and Homura accompanied him. "What do you guys want?" she asked angrily as Kaharu spoke up. "Tsunade-sama, we had to send a threat to Yukigakure no Sato over the issue at hand," she replied, causing the slug Sanin to glare at her. "Rest assured, we will make sure they comply with our wishes." Just then, a messenger bird came up to the old warhawk as he opened up the note. His face instantly grew furious as he read the note. "That filthy patchworker," Danzo thundered as Tsunade looked at him. "They say that we have the guts to challenge them when they think that we can be bested." "Well, let me see the note," Tsunade said as Danzo handed her the note. "To the Hokage of Konohagakure no Sato and her puppet masters. We as the people of Yukikagure no Sato, will not tolerate this utter threat imposed on us. We will also not tolerate the severe ostracization of one Naruto Uzumaki and the calling for his death. He has proved to be valuable to our village and we are certainly not going to turn him over to his hometown. If there is anything I can do, it's that from here on in, Yukigakure no Sato will cut off relations with Konohagakure no Sato and impose an embargo on Hai no Kuni. Therefore, no one from Hai no Kuni shall enter the territory of Yuki no Kuni." Daisuke Asuka, Nidame Yukikage. "Well, that was interesting. Yet we have lost an ally as a result," Tsunade replied as Danzo gritted his teeth. "We must teach those impudent patchworkers that Konoha cannot be bested by the likes of them," he thundered again as Homura nodded. "If they establish real tie-ins with Iwa and Kumo, there's no telling what the demon brat would do if he joined forces with the very people that wanted him dead because of his father. We have pushed him off our lives, so we're paying for it." The slug Sanin replied. "If we can't get our message across the entire country, then we'll revert OT reprisals. For any appeasement towards Yuki no Kuni, we take 10 hostages and kill them." Homura answered back instead. "Danzo-sama, We have to go if we want to have a chance of getting the Uchiha to become a free man. Like I'd ever let you do that, she said as Danzo sighed in disgust. We're going, he said as the three elders left the Hokage's office. Tsunade gritted her teeth as she looked at the Hokage monument. What could you have done, Sarutobi-sensei? The Haruno clan were in the midst of a crisis right now. They feared that their disgraced nephew Kojiro would seek revenge and kill them as Itachi Uchiha had done. What should we do? Sakura asked as her mother was still sacred. Sakura-chan, we don't know yet, but the demon brat should be found soon. Sachiko replied, but her husband cut her off. The demon brat, as you call it, just happened to be the most dangerous person in the world. Minato Haruno replied back with anger. We have beaten it to a pulp, to the point where it can set off like a time bomb. If the demon brat joined forces with the traitor and the freak Kojiro, it will truly be the death of us. The Uchiha traitor deserved to die for his crimes. The rest of the Harunos were clamoring for the death of the demon brat, as Sakura looked down with guilt. As far as I'm concerned, we cannot shame our ally the Namikaze clan. Despite the fact that Minato had made terrible decisions. Minato replied as Sakura left her house for a walk. An Iwa nin that was traveling from Yuki no Kuni went back to her village as she was going to deliver a very pleasing news. She went to the Tsuchikage's office as the rest of the villagers looked on. She arrived at the Tsuchikage tower as the Tsuchikage was working on a paperwork. What is it? The Tsuchikage asked as her eyes looked at the kunoichi that delivered a note. She read the note and was ecstatic. It seems that the Kiroi Senko's son has fled the wretched village after all. Send word to Kumo that we're using diplomacy on Yukigakure no Sato. It's time I meet this Daisuke Asuka in person. What of the Jonin exams? The messenger nin asked. We'll have to host it. Send that message as well, since this note says that they got the elite unit being trained in there. The Tsuchikage replied as the messenger nin left. Well, this is interesting after all. The Tsuchikage was writing a note telling the Yukikage that Iwi will host the Jonin exams and that they hoped that they see the son of Konoha's Kiroi Senko unharmed. After she had done that, she got a messenger hawk to send the message as it flew away. An assistant came in to ask her a question about the word that the messenger nin had told him. Tsuchikage-sama, why can't Yuki host the exams? The assistant asked. Because we haven't recognized them as the sixth major power yet. Instead, whether Kumo or our village will host the exams. It will be lucky too, since Konoha can't send their Chunin into here to be tested since the grudges were still in place in the last war. The Tsuchikage replied as her head drooped down. Well, I'd better see if Daisuke Asuka can recognize that they have the full support of our village. Yes, Tsuchikage-sama, the assistant replied as he left. In the Yukikage tower in the snow-covered village, Daisuke was handling the missions for a genin team that was fresh out of the academy. After finishing the task at hand, the Yukikage looked up to see a messenger hawk come up to him with a note attached to it. He immediately opened it as the Yukikage recognized the seal of the Tsuchikage. To the Nidame Yukikage of Yukigakure no Sato. In this kind of event that you can't host the exams, we will do it in your stead. However, you have to place a limit on the Chunin that will enter from your village to 500. Despite the fact that you have 4 times the amount of Chunin that your village possess. And we also thank you for liberating the son of the Kiroi Senko from the clutches of Konoha. I know how you fell, as Iwe has a considerable amount of coordinators resided within our village walls. We will have the exams started in 2 weeks. Yondaime Tsuchikage. Well, it looks like we're saved after all. Daisuke thought as he looked at the window. He remembered what the man Le Creuset said about sending half-trained Chunin into the Jonin exams and failing it right away. But not only that, he can send 500 Chunin to participate from the regular shinobi force, in which 100 will be from the elite unit the Hyakuniju Shutai Shotai. He then summoned the assistant and gave him orders. IWNATU to summon Team Mamoru and Team Nader right away. Daisuke ordered as the assistant shinobi, a Jonin, left the tower in a flash. He then found Mamoru and his team supervising Naruto training with the new recruits in Kenjutsu. All right, the sword is not just a weapon, but also a part of yourself. Keep that in mind, Naruto explained as the assistant came up to him. What is it? Yukikage-sama wants to see you. The assistant said as Naruto rushed to the Yukikage tower, but not before saying to them that he had mats to take care of. The assistant then also summoned Mamoru and his team, as well as Fubuki, Mizore and Nadare along with Kojira and an unknown girl who had violet hair and gray eyes. When they arrived at the Yukikage's office, Daisuke was looking at them with a satisfaction in his face. "Well, I have good news for you all," he said as Naruto looked at him from his masked face. "The Jonin exams will be relocated and will happen in Iwagakure. So that means, we only have 2 weeks to prepare you all, especially you, Naruto. Since you don't have a team to back on. Instead, either you can be in a team with Nadare-sensei, or you can be an apprentice with Itachi-san." "Well, where is Itachi anyway?" Mamoru asked as the said elder Uchiha appeared out of nowhere. "Whoa, didn't see you there. I was just observing the new recruits with my Sharingan," Itachi replied as Naruto sighed. "So, am I to understand that I will take Naruto-kun as an apprentice, Yukikage-sama?" "Well, yes, or he can be with Nadare-sensei," Daisuke replied. "Whatever the choice that Naruto makes. I want to be an apprentice with Itachi-sensei," Naruto replied as Itachi looked at him. "At least I'll kick Sasuke's ass if I ever see him again. He's the reason why I got kicked out of the village anyways. There will be time for revenge later, but what matters is that I've got to train you more in genjutsu. You may have created your own genjutsu, but I still have to teach you how to identify and counter genjutsu." "All right, Itachi-senpai," Naruto replied back again as Daisuke spoke up. "So now, all we have to do is to find a third person to be in Nadare-san's team to take the exams." Daisuke replied as he heard a knock. "Come on in." The newcomer was a imp-sewing figure with a battle scar in his face. He had those same eyes as Naruto, but his hair was blue instead of blonde. "Ah, this is Kentaro Akabane, the Chunin that will be with Nadare-san's team. He was originally from here, but his parents were from Kumo," Daisuke explained as the newcomer nodded. "Kentaro, your team's sensei is Nadare Roga, and your teammates are Kojira Haruno and Yuriko Kana Seirin." "Ah, the girl that was kicked out of the Seirin clan for speaking out against the policies of Blue Cosmos," Kentaro said as Yuriko glared at him. "What's the matter? I feel just like Kojira," Yuriko replied as Daisuke sighed. "Well, Yukikage-sama, should we get prepared for the exams?" "Yes, you're all dismissed. By the way, within those 2 weeks, I will give you guys missions," Daisuke replied as they left. Naruto went on his way to training with Itachi as Kisame joined up with them. Itachi sighed in relief at the thought of taking in the blonde as an apprentice as a way to get even with his foolish Odato. Kakashi was never a happy jolly man, especially hearing about the exile of his sensei's child. He at first was confused. But the attitudes of the villagers and the swastika paintings on Naruto's old house reminded him of the sad reality. He was reading more Icha Icha books than ever, having to disband Team 7 because Sakura was the one that caused Naruto's banishment and the threat of execution if he ever stepped inside the village walls. Worse was to follow when Danzo was planning to resort to reprisals if their demands were not met. So far, no one was hurt, but the Hyuga clan were in danger of becoming one of those hostages that were going to be lined up and shot to death by the same gunman that took Shizune hostage. While the copy nin was indulging in man's greatest treasure, he didn't realize that he bumped headfirst into a kunoichi that he was inclined to avoid, which was Anko. "So, Kakashi-kun, reading that trash again, I see." Anko smirked as she got a kunai and tried to slice the book in half. But Kakashi replied by vanishing from sight again. "Well, I'll need Kurenai-chan's services to get that pervert out of that book." Anko then went to search for the genjutsu mistress as she saw a purple-haired Anbu kunoichi interacting with a suspicious-looking figure. She started to eavesdrop as the purple-haired Anbu talked to the unknown figure. "Tell the Yukikage that I am planning to join them soon," she said as the figure nodded, but what she didn't realize was that she was being watched, but not by Anko, but by the Nei Anbu. They surrounded her as the Yuki shinobi that was talking to her revealed herself. "So, Azuki-san is a traitor to our new order. I swear to Kami that Konoha is getting more rebellious." One Nei Anbu gritted his teeth as the Yuki kunoichi activated the all-familiar Byakugan. "What is she? Is she a Hyuga or something?" the purple-haired Anbu wondered as the figure with the Byakugan charged at them. "I'd better flee." She ran away as the Nei Anbu started to give chase, but the figure was chasing the Nei Anbu instead of them chasing her. "Figures," she said as she whipped out a pistol and shot the leader of the pack. He fell as the Nei Anbu then gave attention to her. You're all dead meat to me. For I am Miura Akabane, and I am here to exterminate you all. She then went into a Jiyuken stance as more Nei Anbu surrounded her. She then started to attack them all at once. Hake Rokujuien Sho. Miura yelled as she stunned one Nei Anbu member and incapacitated another. However, this time the Nei Anbu that was chasing the defecting purple-haired woman were ready to die. They charged as Miura then made a hand sign. Sweden. Tsunami no Jutsu. She yelled as a large wave of water appeared from the sea and engulfed the approaching enemy shinobi. She then resumed her journey with the said Anbu leading the way. Back in the enemy village, Anko then went to the training rounds where Kurenai was training her team. The Genjutsu mistress then looked up to see her friend rushing to her. What is it, Anko? Is it Kakashi acting perverted again? Kurenai asked. No, it's Yugo-chan. She's left the village with the spy from Yukigakure. Anko replied as Kurenai looked at her with shocked. We'd better get to the Hokage right away. The two kunoichi rushed to the Hokkei Tower, only to be dominated by Anbu that were not loyal to the old Warhawk. They were frantically trying to search for their friend, unaware that she had defected to Yuki already. As Anko and Kurenai went all the way to the Hokage's office, they spotted Tsunade arguing with Danzo and the two fascist elders. Now why would you recommend that Yugo Izuki be executed when she hasn't done anything yet? The slug Sanin asked when they arrived. She has been charged with treason against the village and got in our way of our new order. Danzo replied as Kaharu also spoke up. This is the reason why we have to be a little harsher on traitors. But the Uchiha is a special case, since he has the Sharingan. She replied, and if either Hinata or Neji Hyuga were the last ones to have the Byakugan, would you give them a special treatment? Tsunade asked back, technically, yes, but they must also be fascists. That means not being a demon lover. Homura answered back as Anko spoke up. Hokage-sama, Yugo-san left the village with a Yuki nin by the name of Miura Akabane. She said, causing the elders to impale at that thought. She had those same eyes as the Hyuga clan, but she had different color of hair. Well, this is going nowhere. Tsunade replied as the elders stayed behind. What of Kakashi and Guy's reports? Nothing so far, but I swear one of these days, I'm going to burn the smuts that he reads. As for Guy, well, I can burn his jumpsuits as well. Kurenai replied as Anko smirked. I don't know what is happening to the Jonins right now. Well, going on to the next issue. The Jonin exams that will happen in Yuki. Well, it can't happen, because technically, it's not a member of the 5 shinobi nations. However, it asked Iwa to host it in its stead. So we need some chunin that can enter the exam. The slug Sanin explained. Well, we can ask the Uchiha to enter it. After all, we will promote him while he is still in prison. The Haruno girl could be a suitable choice to go, and as for the Nara boy, I guess he can go, Signy he's actually chunin. Kaharu said. So, we'll give the Uchiha permission to compete in the Jonin exams. A little warning however, the Iwa shinobi wouldn't take kindly if we tried to assault them. Tsunade said again as the elders bowed and left. When Sasuke was still in prison, he would often mumble again and again that he has to kill a certain blonde. He looked up when the 3 elders came up to him. What is it, Danzo-sama? Sasuke asked. We will give you permission to compete in the Jonin exams in Iwa. The War Hawk replied as Kaharu gave him the Chunin vest. We also promote you to the rank of Chunin for your services to the village. Thank you. And when do I get the training from your Nei? Sasuke said. I need the training to kill the Dobi. Well, we can ask Tsunade or persuade her to clear you of all charges with the hostages that we took. Danzo said. So, come with us right now. Sasuke got out of prison as the guard that was responsible for him was knocked out. They went back to the Hokage Tower to see Tsunade, who wasn't in the mood to see them, especially when they had just saw her regarding Yugo's defection. Tsunade glared at the 3 elders and Sasuke as Homura spoke up. We demand that Sasuke Uchiha be cleared of all charges right away. He said. What happened to the fair trial? Tsunade asked angrily. There will be no trial, since circumstances had stated that the Uchiha must be promoted. Kaharu replied as the same gunman that took Shizune came up to them. We will take hostages if our demands are not met. As to prove their point, the gunman had ran into the rest of the village and seized hostages. When he came back, The hostages included 3 main branch Hyugas, an Akamichi clan member, 3 Anbu shinobi that were loyal to Tsunade, as well as Izumo and Katetsu. Well, what will it be? Danzo asked. No, Tsunade replied, causing the gunman to shoot one of the Anbu in the head. When Tsunade refused again, another Anbu was shot. All right, good, but I'm a little disappointed in you. Your stubbornness has cost you dearly. Danzo said snidely as they left. In the Haruno household, Danzo, Koharu and Homura knocked on the door of their house. Minato answered the call and said, "You're looking for Sakura, right Danzo-sama?" "Yes, Minato-san. Is she around? 'Cause we want to train her for the Jonin exam now that we will promote her to the rank of Chunin if she can do a little test for us." Danzo replied back. Minato then went inside and looked for Sakura. A minute later, he came back with her in tow. "Well, here she is." "Danzo-sama, what a surprise." Sakura replied, "Of course I will do the test for promotion. That's the spirit." Koharu replied as she came along with them. When they arrived at an open field, there was one Nei Anbu that was waiting for them. "We ahve the examinee for the promotion to Chunin." "I see," she said as the Nei Anbu Kunoichi started to attack Sakura. She replied with countering her move, but it was a bad move on her part as Sakura was knocked down. She got up quickly as the attacking Kunoichi got a kunai out. The Haruno girl responded with a genjutsu as she dispelled it, only to be kicked in the face. Finally, she gave up as Sakura panted. "She passes. So it seems." Homura replied. "Well, Sakura-san, you have passed, and you have now become a Chunin." Koharu then gave her a chunni vest as Sasuke shook her hand. Time skipped to 2 weeks later. Naruto was speeding up with Itachi as Mamoru's team also sped up with them. They were fully prepared for the exams now that their training had been constant with having to teach the elite unit to function well. They, along with the 500 other Yuki shinobi, were going to prove that they're the best shinobi in the world. "Itachi-senpai, how long until we get to Iwa?" Naruto asked. "It will be a long time." Itachi replied as they sped through the forests of Hai no Kuni before going northwest in the direction of Iwa. "We must hurry." Their journey was fast, even for a well-trained Naruto in an exosuit. Finally, when they reached the fortress village of Iwagakure no Sato, the villagers there bowed to the Yuki shinobi as Naruto looked around. Many of them were clamoring to see the son of Konoha's Kiroi Senko in a Yukigakure uniform. They went straight to the Iwagakure Academy there to join up with the examinees. Naruto wasn't pleased when he saw Sasuke there. "What's Teme doing here?" Naruto thought as Sasuke looked at him with curiosity. Sakura went up to Sasuke and looked at him also. "Who is that?" Sakura asked Sasuke. "I don't know, but I can beat that thing in that suit," he replied, causing Sakura to nod in agreement. The written portion of the exam was a bit harder for them, mainly because it was like the Chunin exams. They had to cheat in order to get the answers, and Nato was well prepared to cheat to get the answers. After receiving a pass in the written portion, Naruto and Mamoru's team went to a secluded part of the mountain where the second test is located. The second portion of this exam's objective is to retrieve a secret document that is located beneath this mountain. The second proctor said as Naruto was listening. "This exam will take around 3 days only, so if you run out of time, you fail. There will be a lot of competition, so be prepared to deal a lot of damage to your enemies." The examinees then entered the mountain, where the secret document was located. While Naruto was looking for the document, he laid some traps for any incoming shinobi. His hopes were raised when Sasuke and Sakura along with an emotionless man fell to the trap. "Damn it." Sasuke gritted his teeth as Naruto decided to appear. You're from before." "Geez, Teme. I don't know if you can remember me." Naruto replied coldly as Sakura charged at him. He responded with a backhand at her face. "Is that all you can do, Sakura Teme? How dare you call me Teme?" She yelled as she tried to kick Naruto in the face, but instead Naruto punched her in the face so much, her jaw was dislocated. The emotionless man then made some hand signs. "Ninpo! Chaoju Giga!" he yelled as he made some painting on the scroll as Naruto made some hand signs. "Kaden! Housenka no Jutsu!" he said as small multiple flames came out of his masked mouth. "Hyaden! Nadare Roga no Jutsu!" An ice wolf suddenly came in as Sasuke made some hand signs. Naruto then recognized the hand sign and also made some different hand signs. Kaden. Gokyaku no Jutsu. Sweden. Ya no Kushi. Fire and water clashed as Naruto and Sasuke fought each other in a taijutsu match. Sakura then took this opportunity to distract him when suddenly Shinosuke and Amaya appeared with Shin holding a scroll. Naruto then grabbed an abandoned scroll and punched Sasuke in the jaw, dislocating it. "Farewell now," he said as Naruto, Shinosuke, Amaya and Shin left the Konoha trio, bruised and broken. 3 days after the examinations that took place in Iwa, the examinees were then rested up. Shinosuke then took this opportunity to get to know Kentaro Akabane. "So, are you by chance related to Miura-sensei?" he asked the newcomer. "Yeah, but I'm also related to the Hyugas, so I have the Byakugan. That's why Kumo treated the Akabane clan like royalty." Kentaro replied as Shin came up to them. "Shin Asuka, isn't it? What is it? It's time for the preliminary rounds," he said as they three Yuki shinobi went down to the Aryan where the fight will take place. On the way, they happened to bump into Sasuke, Sakura and the painter Nin. Sasuke glared at them with hate. "What are you looking at?" Shinosuke asked angrily as Sasuke made a fist. "I will kill you all and avenge my defeat at the hands of a filthy tack worker." Sasuke replied as Shin ignored him. "What was that?" he asked, finding ignorance. At that time, Sakura was ready to bash Shin in the head with her fist, but the younger Asuka was prepared and twisted her arm. "Trying to beat me into submission, Teme? Why are you idiots calling me Teme?" Sakura yelled. At that moment, a voice that she didn't hear in a long time replied. "Because you and the rest of the accursed family ruined our lives, Sakura Oni Teme." Kojiro retorted as he appeared from the shadows. "It's time I get my revenge by killing you. I may be similar to Sasuke Teme, but I'm no worse than the likes of you." Kojiro then walked away as the rest of the Yuki nin soon followed suit. When they arrived at the arena floor, the third proctor then announced the matches for the preliminary round. Sasuke Uchiha vs Shin Asuka. The two combatants were already on the floor when the said proctor sighed. "All right. The rules state that for any matches, the combatant is proclaimed the winner when the defeated combatant is either unable to continue or knocked out," he said. "Go." Sasuke activated his Sharingan as did Shin. Both combatants then made the same hand signs. Kaden. Gokyaku no Jutsu. Both attacks were met with tremendous force as Shin's Gokyaku were blue flames while Sasuke's flames were red. They proceeded to engage in a taijutsu match with Shin launching his move. Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Shin yelled as 5 clones appeared. Sasuke then laughed maliciously with that move. "You're even more pathetic than that Dobi," Sasuke said as the Shin clones dived at the Uchiha while creating yet another hand signs. Bunshin Daibakuha. The clones yelled as they detonated themselves, causing Sasuke to get caught in the explosion. The Uchiha then struggled to get up from the floor as Shin made more hand signs. Kaden. Ryuka no Jutsu. Shin yelled as a blue-flamed dragon appeared and fired its flames at the unconscious combatant. At the moment, Sasuke's cursed seal started to act up and he went into level 1. The younger Asuka then also activated the cursed seal. "Give me more power to beat the crap out of this guy." Sasuke then made the same hand signs as before, causing Shin to create a different hand sign. Kaden. Hausinka no Jutsu. Sweden. Suiryuden. Both attacks cancelled each other as smoke started to appear. However, Shin was already making yet another hand sign when Sasuke started to go to the level 2 of the cursed seal. "Shoot, I've gotta get this thing over with," Shin said to himself as he called the attack. Raiden. Jabashiri. A sudden storm was brewing as a lightning bolt started to fall from the sky as Shin held his fingertips to redirect the electricity to the incoming Uchiha. Sasuke then dodged it while the younger Asuka ambushed him with a genjutsu. Megan. Narukumi no Jutsu. Shin said quietly as he disappeared from view. Sasuke quickly realized the trick and said, "Kai," to dispel the genjutsu. However, Shin was already forming a ball of chakra as Sasuke looked at him. Shin then charged towards the CS2 mode Sasuke and made some hand signs. A minute later, a ball of electricity was formed in his hands as both combatants charged at each other. Chidori. Rasengan. Both attacks were seen to collide, But Shin made a feint as he sidestepped at an enraged Uchiha as he delivered the ball of swirling chakra into his back. When Sasuke felt the attack, he screamed with agony as Shin poured more of his chakra into the ball, enlarging the Rasengan. The Uchiha then fell into the ground as Shin panted. Shosha, Shin Asuka. The next matches were a series of draws as a lot of Yuki shinobi battled each other to a draw, to the surprise of the Iwa hosts. Finally, after 2 or more matches, the billboard came up with 2 names. Sakura Haruno vs Kojiro Haruno. Both Harunos glared at each other with killing intent as the proctor explained the rules again. After he started the match, Kojiro made some hand signs that Sakura didn't recognize. Ninpo. Kachiyose no Jutsu. A minute after the summoning, a large kangaroo appeared out of nowhere as it glared at the younger Haruno. The great kangaroo then spoke up to Kojiro as he made some more hand signs. "What is it do you want, Kojiro?" the kangaroo asked. "I want you to help me with the thrashing of this girl right here." Kojiro said. "Very well, but you owe me after this." The kangaroo replied as Kojiro hanged into another copy of another kangaroo. Kangaroo Renden. The 2 kangaroos then charged full speed at the younger Haruno as Sakura was pummeled from every direction. Back in T stage, Naruto was watching the scene with satisfaction as revenge on the pink-haired Banshee was being brought out right now. Back to the match, or rather, fast forward to the end of the match. Sakura fell unconscious as Kojiro punched her in the head. Shosha, Kojiro Haruno. Shinosuke Asuka vs Kentaro Akabane. The 2 combatants then followed the same procedure as the first few matches as the proctor explained the rules. After he started the match, Kentaro activated the Byakugan as Shinosuke activated the Sharingan. "Well, since our chakra armor pretty much repels our genjutsu and ninjutsu, we should go for a classic taijutsu match, huh Shinosuke?" Kentaro said. "You got it, but let's do ninjutsu and genjutsu for the fun of it." Shinosuke replied as Kentaro got into an unknown stance, which was a little similar to the Hyuga stance. "Damn it, that must be the infamous Akabane taijutsu stance." Shinosuke then threw a kunai at Kentaro as the said Akabane dodged the incoming weapon, only to fall into a trap that was cleverly set by the older Asuka. Ninpo. Kage kunai renden no jutsu. Shinosuke said as he glanced around for Kentaro, who seemed to have hidden himself. With just a nick of time, Shinosuke dodged the ambush that Kentaro set up by launching a barrage of shuriken and kunai, but he tripped into an explosive trap. The trap was triggered by Kentaro's single-handed seal as Shinosuke dodged the attack like crazy. Shinosuke and Kentaro's match lasted for even longer than 5 hours as both of them tried to outwit each other, but to no avail. Finally, both combatants decided to give it up. This match is a draw. In the audience, many shinobi that were watching were amazed by the tactics that the 2 combatants have displayed. Mamoru was amazed at how his student can last longer in his match. Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze vs Sai. This match was anticipated by the Iwa examinees as the blonde Jinchuriki in the exosuit stepped up against an emotionless boy with an artistic ability. The proctor had explained the rules for the umpteenth time, as both combatants looked at each other with contempt. Or rather, Naruto looked at the boy with contempt. "Begin," he said as both combatants rushed towards each other. The boy called Sai then made some quick paintings as he made some hand signs. "Ninpo. Chaoju Giga," he said as the painting came to life. Naruto smirked under his mask and made some hand signs quickly. "Hayaten. Sabama Fubuki no Jutsu," he said coldly as the attack literally froze the painting right in its tracks. Then, Naruto made some hand signs as he formed a swirling fireball in his hand. "Kaden. Rasen Shuriken Bakuden." The swirling fireball then made contact with the frozen paintings as it literally melted and ignited, causing an explosion. When both combatants fell unconscious to the ground, the proctor immediately called a draw, but an arm with a gauntlet came out of the ground as Naruto reappeared in his exosuit, unscathed. Sai then said something that would have sent him to a grave. "Do you give up, demon child? You should die, for Danzo-sama's sake," the boy said as he found himself face to face with a glaring masked man with a gauntlet in his throat. "Are you going to kill me, demon child?" Naruto then slammed his gauntlet into Sai's gut as he gasped for air as blood came out of him. The fallen Nei member then collapsed to his death as Naruto announced to the entire examinees. "I will not tolerate anyone that tries to insult me because of something I can't control," Naruto said with a chilling voice that terrified the examinees. Shosha, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. There were cheers from the Iwa sector as Naruto went back to the balcony. He then noticed the last few combatants that were still not fighting yet. Amaya Musashi vs Yuriko Kana Seirin. The Kunoichis then glanced at each other as the match started in its fast pace. Yuriko started with throwing a multiple barrage of kunai as Amaya dodged the projectiles. "Damn it." Amaya gritted as she practically dodged every kunai while forming a sign in a manner a certain lazy chunin would do. She analyzed the situation that she found herself in and began to plot a strategy. "Let's see. If I can ambush her with a bomb, I can create a smokescreen that will distract her and then I can launch a barrage of Kaiden Jutsu." Yuriko then realized that she was about to fall into a trap thanks to her instincts as she dodged an incoming barrage of kunai attached with exploding tags as she made some hand signs. "Doden. Doryuheki," she said as Amaya then created another hand sign. "Raiden. Jabashiri." Amaya yelled as the earth wall shattered into pieces. The match was still going on even after 3 hours of fighting and still there was no combatant that would ever give up, like the match with the older Asuka and the Akabane. In the end, both combatants were forced to stop by the proctor as he loafed at the time. After the final few matches that occurred, the Tsuchikage then gave out a speech about the results of the exam as she looked around for the suitable candidates. "Well, folks, it looks like you've outdone yourselves in this match for your exams. The only thing left to do is to show the daimyos and nobles of every country that you're all capable of being recruited to work for them," she said as they listened. "Unfortunately, there will not be a final match in this Jonin exams this year, because as of right now, there are war clouds that are brewing in the air and the possibility of a conflict anew. So I'll just give the results to your respective villages and see if they can promote you." The examinees then applauded as the Tsuchikage then left the stage. Naruto and the rest of the Yuki shinobi then made their way back to the hotel where they will rest before they resume their journey home. "Well, I can't believe that there's trouble stirring in the sky," Amaya said as Naruto sighed in relief. "What did the Tsuchikage mean by war clouds brewing?" "It means that my former village is about to create chaos on a massive scale," Naruto replied as Shin spoke up. "So what it means is that sooner or later, we're about to get drawn into a no-dear ninja world war," he said. "That explains the reason why my family wanted to move to the outside world." "I know, Shin," Shinosuke replied as they bunked at the hotel that Mamoru provided for them. Little did they knew, they were being spied on by an injured Sasuke and Sakura. However, Naruto's new type senses clicked in as he jumped out of the window. "What is it, Naruto? We've got company," he yelled as he made some hand signs. "Kage Bunshin no Jutsu." Sasuke then leapt out of the bushes as he and Sakura struggled to dodge the incoming bunshin that Naruto made. He instantly recognized the jutsu as he activated his cursed seal. "I knew it. It must be that Dobi," Sasuke yelled as his face was covered with the black markings. "Naruto, I should kill you to get more of my power." Naruto then made a hand sign as Sasuke also made some hand signs. They were charging up their Chidori and Rasengan respectively, as they charged towards each other. Chidori, Rasengan, both attacks collided as an explosion occurred, alarming nearby Iwa-nen. They rushed to the scene where the two combatants were fighting. At the moment, the Tsuchikage was also looking at the commotion and saw a CS1 Sasuke surviving the explosion, but so did Naruto with his exosuit. "Oh Kami, that's Sasuke Uchiha right there," she said to herself as the Iwa-nin looked furious. She then ordered the shinobi standing there, "Apprehend the Uchiha right away." Sasuke looked at the situation and went into CS2 mode as he grew a set of new wings. The Iwa-nin still expressed their horror as the Uchiha charged towards Naruto, who then aimed a kick in his face so hard, Sasuke crashed into 3 buildings. Sakura was standing there, looking horrified. She then grew angrier as Naruto drew out his sei and was about to stab him, but she stopped him. "Stop it, Naruto," Sakura yelled, but Naruto merely replied by grabbing her by the collar and threw her into the same wrecked building. "Sorry about the damage, I'll pay it right away." Naruto replied as he gave the Tsuchikage his wallet containing the cash money that he earned while working as a former Konoha shinobi. I'll pay some more. No, it's okay, Namikaze-sama. The Tsuchikage replied as she looked around. Just then, Mamoru, Fubuki, Nadare and Midori came to the scene and looked confused. The Konoha trash thought that it was okay to kill one of your shinobi. Well, we'd better get back to our village. No doubt that you gave Yukikage-sama the results through us already. Mamoru replied as Fubuki gasped at the two unconscious Konoha shinobi. I'd recognized that brat anywhere. He was the same guy that almost killed me with that taijutsu move and a Kaden user. Fubuki said as Nadare also gasped. So the other two must be Naruto-san's ex-teammates. The same ones that accompanied Koyuki Harem back to Yuki no Kuni. Nadare replied. Well, I'd never thought that they would be here, out of all places. Well, we're one step closer to going to war. Mamoru replied as they left the village with the rest of the Yuki shinobi following suit. Otogakure no Sato. The one place that no one would want to live in, because it consists of secret bases and not a real village. The snake Sanin Orochimaru had founded his village there after fleeing Akatsuki, which was caused by a certain Uchiha that resisted his attempts to use his body. As Orochimaru looked around, he was screaming with agonizing pain as his assistant, a white-haired boy by the name of Kabuto Yakushi, came up to him. Why didn't Sasuke-kun come to me? Orochimaru yelled as Kabuto helped him out. I heard that it was Naruto-kun that stopped him from going to our village. He was kicked out of Konoha and he is now residing in Yukigakure no Sato. Kabuto replied. Great, I wished that I could have taken over Dodo Kazuhana's body for Hyaden jutsus. Orochimaru replied weakly. But I insisted on getting Sasuke-kun's body because I wanted the Sharingan. I also heard that Naruto-kun activated the Rinnegan. Perhaps you can take over his body. The medic Nin replied, but the snake Sanin shook his head. He has the Kyuubi inside him, and for one thing for sure. The Rinnegan wouldn't work for me, since I can't harness its powers very well. Orochimaru replied as they entered one of their secret bases. So, do we attack Yukigakure or are we focused on obliterating Konoha from the face of the earth? We will attack Yukigakure at one point, but they're too powerful to be beaten right now. Especially that the Akatsuki changed their goal and were accepted into the village. Kabuto said. Speaking of which, how is our prospective body in Yuki? You mean the Asuka boy? Ah yes, Shin-kun received the cursed seal because I thought I could use him as my body, since he has the Sharingan and an unknown seed. Orochimaru replied. Then again, he's not suitable since he's extremely unstable. You're right, Orochimaru-sama. Kabuto replied as they entered a room and started to conduct an experiment. That's all for now. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments.